Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my Karen date told me that she was too good for Applebees, so I left her there. Last night I had a date with a woman. Let's call her Amy. Me and Amy have been chatting on a dating app for about a week before we met up. I made our dinner reservation in advance, so I got ready and I drove over to pick her up. When I got there, it took her nearly an hour to meet me. I called her a few times, but she said that I was rushing her process. That should have made me turn around, but like an idiot, I just waited. That was my mistake, to be honest. By the time Amy finally came downstairs, we missed the dinner reservation. I was annoyed because the reservation had already cost me a fee, so I decided we would just go to Applebees. She asked me if I was seriously going to take her to Applebees. I said, seeing as she's the one who made us late for our reservation, this is what I was willing to do. Amy implied that this was below her standard of courting, but we eventually went inside. While we were in Applebee's, I tried making conversation with her. The whole time, she couldn't hide the fact that she was too good for this and was being snobby, rolling her eyes, looking away, the whole show. Long story short, the food came out and I ate my food, lied and said I had to use the restroom, said forget this, and I left. Well, now she's been blowing up my phone all night and all morning. She called me a jerk for leaving her stranded to fend for herself and to have to pay for her own food and Uber home. Apparently, Amy didn't even have the money to cover her own food. She said I'm a jerk/loser for taking her to Applebee's in the first place instead of a higher-end restaurant. Man, this is why it's best to just meet up for coffee or a drink on the first date. 100%. If I'm ever single again, the first date will always be coffee or brunch somewhere. Too good for a simple date? Too good for me then, because I love both coffee and brunch. Second date, either a simple dinner and a movie somewhere, or we're going on a short and easy hike. You don't get a fancy dinner until we're more comfortable with each other. I'm not setting a standard that you're getting fancy steaks anytime we go out to eat. Speaking of Applebee's, what's your favorite restaurant to eat at? Please let us know.
Honestly, if someone doesn't like Applebee's or Chili's, that's a red flag to me, bruh. Like, everything they have on their menu is so good, but like not great.
Does that make sense? Am I the jerk for ruining my brother-in-law's reputation by telling the truth to my friends? My in-laws are currently furious with me for hurting my brother-in-law's feelings and his reputation with my friend group. Recently, my single brother-in-law, Chris, who's 38, has been hinting at me introducing him to women, and I've refused. Chris has been single for almost 3 years now, and he's been having a hard time meeting women. He tried flirting with my friend, but she had been cold and non-receptive. This was my friend Grace, who's 35. Grace is not interested in him due to his inability to be faithful, and she wasn't physically attracted to him either. He tried to flirtatiously engage with her during a small party my husband and I had last Saturday. My husband got a long-awaited promotion, so we had a little party to celebrate. During the party, Grace had grown frustrated with his incessant flirting and at some point told him in no uncertain terms she found him physically ugly and that his physical ugliness is only surpassed by the ugliness of his character. She told him this in private, so no other guests had heard her scathing review of his personhood. Chris left the party. The following afternoon, while my husband and I were nursing a wicked hangover, my in-laws, to my surprise, called to scold me for having embarrassed Chris. After a few minutes of us shouting back and forth on the phone, I reminded my husband that handling his family is his job. So my husband argued with his parents and I reviewed our security cameras. And honey, Grace verbally tore him apart. Grace reminded him that he cheated and divorced his late ex-wife, Lily, while she was battling cancer, and that he then got dumped by the mistress for being a cheater, and he continued to cheat on her. Grace told him that he wasn't a man of any significant value other than the few coins he had in his bank, and that there's no way in heck she'd be interested in him. She also said the only thing he had going for him was his over-bloated job title as an executive director to a third-rate company that will probably collapse in the next 5 years. As a parting gift, she told him to consider some cosmetic work to improve his haggard appearance, and perhaps to start praying for divine intervention to fix his rotten soul, since there is no way a psychotherapist could ever come close to fixing whatever's wrong with him. My in-laws and Chris feel that I shouldn't have told my friends what Chris did, because now he's perceived by my girlfriends as a terrible person. I then told them that he was, unfortunately, a terrible person, and people would always find out what happened between him and the late great Lily. I then discussed what happened with my colleague, Natasha. She said I was cruel for having told my friend group about what happened between Chris and his ex-wife because Chris had grown a lot in the past 2 years and didn't need to be known for the worst thing he had ever done. Natasha is dating Chris's friend, so she also knows him. FYI, I've only discussed Chris's treatment of Lily with my direct friend group, and that's only 6 people, and half of them already knew as they were also friends with Lily. So it's not like I'm screaming, hear ye, in the town square. Not the jerk. How can telling the truth be perceived as unfair? Chris did this to himself. It was his behavior that's the problem. Why should you expose your friends to a potentially horrific relationship? You know your brother-in-law is a cheater, but your in-laws want you to keep that from your friends so that he can continue to take advantage without consequences. I think you did the right thing. And this is a 38-year-old guy running to mommy and daddy crying when a lady tells him to buzz off. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation, not the jerk. What kind of friend would you be if you didn't warn your friends about his cheating? If he's grown, then he can prove that. You do not owe him any setups, much less ones you've lied to by omission. Let me be clear, cheaters do not change. They never do. My ex cheated on me with my best friend. Once I kicked her out, she started dating him. Then he kicked her out for cheating, and she cheated on her affair partner with multiple guys. Cheaters don't change, not the jerk OP, and I'm betting the reason Natasha is so defensive of your brother-in-law is because she's cheating with him. Or she's also a cheater. I don't know how to support my girlfriend and her passion that she's terrible at. We've been together for almost 3 years now, and for the most part, the relationship is lovely. But there's an increasingly large part of her life which is causing issues: writing. My girlfriend always tells me about how much she loves writing. Though she doesn't write professionally, it's always been a hobby of hers, and it's one that she takes a lot of pride in. She's even been starting to write some rough drafts of a light novel recently, and she enjoys every second of it. The problem? Her writing is the worst I've ever seen from someone our age, bar none. Now, I don't claim to be a good writer whatsoever. I've seen plenty of fantastic writing, and I'm well aware that I could never produce anything remotely close to that. In general, though, I'm at least able to write at a competent level. It's not perfect or great, but it gets the job done. Her writing, on the other hand, is incredibly difficult to read, even at a basic level. Punctuation is seemingly random. There are paragraph-long sentences without a comma in sight. Tenses change over and over in the middle of a thought without warning. The vocabulary is never beyond a middle school level, which causes the entire thing to read like a 7th grade English assignment. To clarify, she is a native English speaker, so this isn't due to the language itself being uncomfortable for her. The content is also meandering, seemingly jumping from one idea to the next with no rhyme or reason. Again, if you were to read it, you would just assume that a kid wrote it. I don't mean to spend this much space belittling her work, but I feel like I need to drive home that this isn't just some issue of personal preference. It's really as close to objectively poor writing as you can get. Further confounding the issue is the fact that she's extremely proud of all of her writing. She talks over and over about how she's a writer and claims that it's one of her greatest skills. She's turned it into a major part of her identity. She constantly asks me to proofread pieces of her novel, and I don't even know what to do. I've tried basically rewriting the whole thing, and I've tried being more hands-off, only marking a few punctuation changes in there, knowingly leaving in countless errors. When I do the former, she seems to be genuinely hurt, asking me what was wrong with the original she showed me. When I do the latter, I feel like I'm basically lying to her about one of the things she cares about the most. She loves to show people her writing, and I hate saying this, I feel incredibly embarrassed when she does. I can see their confused expressions as they give her a cursory, "Wow, this is great," which she always takes to heart. She's an incredibly kind and loving person, so no one in her life can bring themselves to tell her the truth, knowing that it would shatter her happiness and self-esteem. And the biggest problem of all? She's going to be self-publishing her work soon. If someone buys her novel and leaves a review, she'll be devastated when she reads it. I've tried to subtly hint that maybe she should learn more about grammar and punctuation, just to make her writing even better. I've told her that reading more herself might be a great idea, and maybe she can learn some new words to use in her novel. But whenever I surface these ideas, her interest is practically zero. I have no idea what to do here. Some days I just want to be honest with her and tell her that she should really learn some fundamentals of writing before trying to publish something. But at the end of the day, I just want her to be happy. I feel like no matter what, she's going to have to face the truth, whether it's from me or someone reading her novel and giving an honest review. How can I support her while not supporting her misconception about her abilities? Direct her towards a writing class or a writing group. It can be a fun way to pursue a hobby, and along the way, she might be lucky to get some honest criticism. She'll probably also encounter some equally terrible writing, and that might be a wake-up call for her. She needs her work to be reviewed by a professional and then get ready to be her emotional support animal for a few months. I just get the impression she's not built to take any criticism whatsoever, and she feels she's arrived and self-made. Be strong. Not to be that person, but she is a writer. She's writing. Grammar and issues with the plot or dialogue can be fixed. A lot of crappy books have been published. If you're embarrassed of her work before it's been professionally edited, then sign her up for some writer's workshops or something. You don't have to like her writing or think it's good in order to support her. The comments on this are insane. Saying that she needs an editor or it's her style? She has the literacy of an 11-year-old, and a stupid one at that. Ouch. I think even by that age, most people know things are meant to make sense and have absorbed basic rules of grammar. Does she have a job? Can she even function in daily life? Boss can't hire with crappy wages, so demotes me instead. Okay, but it'll cost you $1 million. A few years ago, I worked at a janky 2-bit company. The boss thought he was God's gift to humanity. He had such a big head, I'm surprised he could even fit it through the doorways. He used to drink beer at his desk for lunch and would often arrive at work late. He was also an insufferable muscle bro and walked around as if carrying rolls of carpet under each arm. A few months into my time there, the company starts winning large orders, so he asks me to set up a small-scale production line to increase capacity and tells me the new hire will be situated there. I design it, set it up, test, it all works, and I'm feeling a sense of pride with what I've accomplished. It worked like a dream. I was confident it would work really well for the new hire. Because I'm an engineer by trade, everything was perfect, and only I knew how to fix the broken crap. Nobody else asked how it worked before making some very detrimental decisions. A while later, there was an issue. He couldn't hire anyone willing to accept such poor wages and boring work. So Jerk Boss had a bright idea to demote me and make me governor of my creation. No way, not for $9,000 less. I immediately started job hunting, and I told him that if that's your final offer, regard tomorrow as my final day. He panics that he's committed the company to a £1 million order due for shipping in 3 days' time. During his alcohol-fueled panic, he tells me to write up highly detailed technical manuals and processes for my replacement. The production line included some precise handwork. Buzz off, I can't do that in 1 day. He also didn't specify what they should contain, and considering I had no help from him with this project, just complaints, I thought, oh well. So sure, he got his manuals. I created Word documents with convincing titles like Technical Manual, Product Version 2.0, and How to Do This Precise Task. Inside the documents were, for example, the surprised Pikachu face and Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys looking lost. Then below, just one line of text reading, "This manual contains all of the information I could find or was given." The file sizes would also indicate a lot of text, which contained within them links to the images. Therefore, at face value, they looked legitimate. I saved them to my laptop in an equally legitimate-looking folder that afternoon. Early the next morning, I came to work to collect my belongings and do some handovers, and found the laptop had vanished. I said my goodbyes to my colleagues and looked over to see him looking incensed with a beer in one hand. He was so angry he didn't look up from his desk. A friend told me later that the company missed the production deadline despite him working 12 hours a day to try to catch up. Apparently, the client was extremely upset. Don't do over good people. Jerk. Landlady kept trying to show my flat without warning. I live in one half of a duplex. The other half is occupied by the owner, my landlady. My landlady is awful. I won't go into detail, so you'll just have to take my word for it. Since we live in close proximity, I do everything within my power to keep the peace and prevent either of our daily lives from being too miserable. That patience finally wore out. My landlady decided to sell the entire duplex. Fine by me, I'm protected by my lease, and I figure my odds are decent of getting a less crappy landlord out of the deal. Obviously, she needs to show the property to prospective buyers. My lease states that she needs to give 24 hours notice before entering my half. I told her I'm even fine with less than that, as long as she lets me know the night before. I also set her up with a personal code for my alarm so she can get in if I'm not home since I travel frequently. However, even this has been too difficult for her. Had a knock at the door last week. It's the landlady with a nice young couple. She asks if they can come take a quick look. I say no, sorry, I haven't had time to prepare for a showing since she gave me no notice. She pouts and says, can they just take a quick peek from the doorway? I stay firm, tell them they can come back tomorrow if they like, and I close the door. A few days later, I'm heading out the door and I bump into my landlady out on the street with a strange man. She says sorry for not calling yesterday, but asks if they can go upstairs for a viewing. I say no, I have laundry out that I haven't put away, and I'm not comfortable with some stranger seeing my clothes like that. She pouts, I'm in a rush, and I jump into my car. I arrive at work to a notification on my phone. It's my Ring alarm system letting me know that my landlady's code was used to deactivate and reactivate the alarm within the last few minutes. She's older and probably has no idea that I can see who's using the alarm code. I am seething. That night, I delete my landlady's alarm code from the system. I do not inform her of this. I figure if she needs to show the property while I'm out of town, I'll just deactivate the alarm remotely from my phone. The next week, I'm traveling for work. I spend the day in meetings. I check my phone to find a million notifications. Ring has let me know the alarm was tripped. My landlady has called a dozen times, left voicemails, sent angry messages. Yes, she tried to go into my apartment again without giving me a heads up. She was unable to deactivate the alarm, and let me tell you, that alarm is loud. I assume half the neighborhood could hear it. I pay for Ring monitoring, so the police were also automatically called. Since she owns the property, it seems they didn't give her too much grief, but as the neighborhood Karen, boy is she upset at being the center of drama. But hey, I bet she won't try to go into my apartment unannounced again. Make the engagement party all about you? You'll be sorry. My big brother recently got engaged to a lovely woman who makes him so happy. I'm thrilled for him, especially because he had a string of terrible girlfriends and messy breakups before meeting this woman, and he deserves someone good for him. One of those terrible girlfriends went on to marry our dad and become our stepmom. She is, to put it as nicely and tactfully as possible, a jerk. When she found out my brother was engaged, she first complained that she wasn't told at the same time he told his parents and siblings, which, girl, he's your ex. She then proceeded to try and make the whole thing about her. She talked openly about how this new girl isn't as pretty or sociable as a certain past girlfriend of his. She called his new fiancé to ask her questions to make sure she was right for him. She started referring to herself as a stepmom-in-law-to-be. She wanted to be involved in the planning for the engagement party, in which she wanted to make a speech. It all made my brother and his fiancé very uncomfortable. I was very involved in planning the engagement party. My stepmom was so adamant that she had to be involved, and my dad asked my brother to let her. So to keep the peace, we let her, but I gave my stepmom random irrelevant things to deal with so that she couldn't have any actual say in the event. I had this woman choosing between 8 nearly identical shades of taupe for the ribbons to go around vases. I made it clear to her that her being invited to the event in the first place was a courtesy, and that if she had any tact, she would be ill that day. She of course showed up, wearing a white floor-length gown, unclear if it came with a headdress. So I asked some friends of mine to run interference to prevent her from talking to the couple. I also talked to the staff at the event and bribed them to make her day a little difficult. The photographer didn't manage to capture a single photo that included her all day and asked to take the family photos while she happened to be in the bathroom. The bartenders gave her non-alcohol versions of every drink she ordered and spilled drinks on her twice. The waiters completely avoided going near her with drinks, and when she tried to make a speech, the microphone suddenly had unexplained feedback and stopped working. Then the music started back up. Afterwards, she complained about how bad the event was. Everyone else seemed to have a good time though, especially the couple. I'm stuck on your father marrying his son's ex and crossing his boundaries to keep the peace. Ironic. The fact that this ex has so much power to keep interfering with people's lives is mind-blowing to me. Are they scared of her or something? I'm just going to say it. Your dad married the ex-girlfriend of his son? OP. Yeah, and then she had a baby with him. And she's been suggesting that her son should get more inheritance than the rest of us. My dad has been shutting her down on that one though. Am I the jerk for telling my husband I hate his most beloved hobby? I'm sick of hearing about the NFL draft. For years, my husband was a casual fan, and I've been a pretty good sport about football season dominating our Sundays. However, this has drastically changed since lockdown. 3 years ago, he started watching this football YouTuber guy, and he became obsessed with the draft. He hasn't talked this much about college football since he graduated years ago. He has this giant dry erase board in our bedroom that he calls his big board. It's ridiculous. At first, I was supportive and I let him rant and explain what the draft was all about, but I'm so sick of hearing about it. He raves about this stuff. He's always in his man cave evaluating players like he's an owner of a team. It feels like fantasy football year-round, and it has absolutely wrecked our relationship as he spends hours watching football plays and people talk about football plays. He can't even stop talking about it when we're in public restaurant. He's constantly quizzing waiters and waitresses about their football knowledge, and it's embarrassing. Heaven forbid he sees someone at our local park with a football shirt or a hat. He becomes insufferable. We went to my niece's spring soccer game, and he went off with the other dads to talk about football. My goodness. Not the jerk. It's okay to have something you're passionate about, but if it's obsessive to a point where there's nothing else you can talk about, that's a problem. It sounds like he's obsessing over football and impacting nearly all of his relationships. I mean, even the waitstaff aren't exempt? Does he just randomly start talking about it? Why does he feel the need to quiz people? OP. Thank you. Something you said has sat with me today. In fact, after reflecting, I suppose really the only relationship that has suffered due to this whole thing is me. My father loves it. My brothers love talking to him. He's a sweet man, which is why I married him in the first place. I guess maybe I might be overreacting due to the fact that it's draft season. The draft is Thursday, and I'm going to try to watch it with him. Update. My husband and I have had some good conversations, and he's willing to compromise with me. I do think I may have overreacted slightly. I'm going to get him some recording equipment for his birthday so he can start a YouTube channel, which we both agree will be a great outlet. Thank you to everyone for your comments. We'll see how this goes after the draft is over Saturday. Speaking of sports, do you ever watch sports or do you like them? Please let us know. My entitled parents follow me onto a flight and demand to speak to the manager. Backstory. This happened a few years ago. My parents are the epitome of what makes an entitled parent, and I've got plenty of stories about their antics. To sum it up quickly, I had decided at 18 years old to run away from them and live overseas, where I am today and quite happy. This was the biggest decision of my life, and I was nervous as heck. They had done terrible stuff since my childhood, and I needed to get away for my own safety and well-being. I planned the flight about 2 weeks before the date, and my parents the whole time didn't think I'd go through with it. To be fair, they only thought I was going on vacation for a short bit. Come the day, and after me calling an Uber to take me to the airport, they caved to save face and took me themselves. I checked in and did all that good stuff before I had to go through security. I waved them off and began to walk forward until the following goes down. We've got security. We've got entitled mom and entitled dad. Security. Excuse me, where's your boarding pass? I only see one here. He points at my boarding pass. Entitled mom. Oh, don't worry. We're just going to take our daughter to the gate. Security. No. I'm afraid you can't go past this post without a boarding pass. What? But she's our daughter. You can't tell me what I can and can't do with my own daughter. Security guy sighs and looks at me flustered up and down. I have a baby face and have always looked much younger than I really am. Security. All right. How old is she? Well, she's... Me. I'm 18, sir. Entitled mom glares at me. Shh. Well, she is an adult and does not require accompaniment from her parents. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Entitled mom. But she does. She's not mentally 18. She's mentally regressed and has issues. Me, shocked and embarrassed. I had depression brought on by diagnosed PTSD. Those were my issues. Yet, she worded it to make it sound like I was intellectually disabled. What? Entitled dad. She's mentally a child. She still likes Chinese cartoons. Referring to anime and manga. Security. I don't see how that applies here. She seems capable enough. Do you feel you can go through on your own? Me. Yes, I'm okay. Entitled mom. Ugh, liar. She begins stomping her foot in frustration like a toddler. Just let me through right now with my daughter. Entitled dad. Yeah, and me. Security sighs, calling another security officer over. Officer 2. What seems to be the problem? Entitled mom cutting them both off. This jerk won't let me go through the gate with my daughter, who is mentally disabled. Security 2. The real story, please. Security explains the deal, and entitled parents are fuming. They can tell by the looks on their faces they're not gonna get their way. Finally, entitled mom yells out the famously awaited Karen line.
I know my rights. I demand to speak to your manager.
So another person comes over, and the three of them are talking quietly together. Me. Mom, Dad, this is going too far. I'm gonna miss my flight if this keeps going. Entitled Dad.
And whose fault is that? You should have booked a later flight.
Me. My flight is at 11 at night.
Not my problem. If you miss your flight, that's on you.
Finally, they stop talking and approach us. Supervisor. Hi, I think we can make a compromise. I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll allow one of you through with her to have a meal or just sit with her for a bit. I could really get in trouble doing this, but I know how far she's going, and I know it'll be hard. Entitled Mom reads her title name on her name tag.
I asked for a manager. Manager!
Entitled Dad.
This is pathetic. Your proposal is also pathetic. How are you going to break up a nice family like that?
Me. I really will be fine. I'll catch up with you next time, okay? Supervisor. I understand where you are coming from, but OP seems to be more than capable and is an adult. I am breaking the rules by letting even one of you go through without a ticket, but it is my offer. Entitled Mom.
No, no, no! This is ridiculous!
By now, Entitled Mom is stamping around and waving her arms around. She gets up close to the two security who kinda eye her, and she immediately backs away, but doesn't stop stamping. Security. Ma'am, I'm afraid if you don't stop, I'm going to have to escort all of you away. Me, realizing he means me too. I quietly mutter an, oh crap, under my breath and begin to panic a bit. Entitled Mom.
Fine, we'll just take our daughter home then.
She takes my arm, but I quickly pull away. Me.
Stop!
Entitled Dad.
How dare you! Apologize to your mother.
Supervisor looks at me. Would you like a parent to go with you? Me. No, not really. Entitled Parents.
What?
Supervisor. Okay, please come along then.
No! I demand you let us on her flight with all the problems you've caused.
Entitled Dad.
Yeah, and make it first class, or any upgrades.
Entitled Mom.
You didn't get the manager. You got a supervisor. You lied to me. Manager! Manager!
Supervisor, ignoring, turns to me. May I double check your ticket? Me. Yeah, of course. I show her my ticket. Supervisor. Perfect. One boarding pass for one person. Step this way and enjoy your flight. Me. Thank you. Entitled Mom grabs my arm.
No! Okay, one of us will go through. OP, you like Wendy's, right? Let's get Wendy's through there.
Me removes my arm. No thank you. I grab my suitcase and walk through security. Entitled Parents try to follow and are immediately stopped. Entitled Dad.
This is not the service we pay for. We should be allowed a ticket on the flight for this.
Entitled Mom.
Wendy's, OP! Wendy's! Come on, Wendy's! Wendy's!
I don't look back and am now further away. I can no longer hear them over the line of people I'm in. I got to my flight just fine and arrived in one piece. I cut contact with both of them. Legend has it, Entitled Mom is still screaming,
Wendy's!
to this day. Little brat ruins entire Sonic movie. Entitled Dad thinks it's okay. Cast. We've got Entitled Dad, we've got his 4-year-old kid, we've got my friends, and me. This happened a few weeks ago, just after the Sonic movie hit the cinemas. I went with 2 of my friends because we all had a Nintendo-filled childhood and couldn't miss the context of the subsequent memes on Reddit. It is important to note that I live in the Netherlands, so that means most movies come in 2 versions, the original version in English and the dubbed version in Dutch. We went to the English version to get the best immersion. We go to a screening around 2 o'clock and the venue is about 60% filled. We go sit down in our seats with some popcorn and some soda when the approximately 3 hours of ads starts rolling. Joke, please laugh. We're sitting in the dead center of the seats and I'm sitting in the most left seat out of the 3 of us. The 3 seats left of me are empty. Here comes the kid and the Entitled Dad. Kid is sitting diagonally behind me, left of me, and Entitled Dad 1 seat on his left. As I said, the movie we're watching is in English and this kid obviously doesn't understand a word of it and can't read the subtitles, So there's a constant barrage of, "What are they saying? Why are they," the moviegoers, "laughing about a joke? What's happening? Why are they doing that?" Mixed in with the classic 4-year-old comments like, "That's not allowed. Oh no, he stole," as if it's Dora the Explorer. "He's a crook. Run, Sonic, you can do it." That's fun and cute and all for a few minutes, but at max volume, so the entire venue can enjoy along and continuously throughout the screening, it's getting annoying really quick. Movie tickets and snacks aren't cheap, you know, so when you finally decide to reward yourself by going to the movies, the last thing you want are Vietnam flashbacks to your kindergarten times. After 15 minutes or so, someone, who is about 16, approached entitled dad in a kind manner and all seemed to be going well. But, oh no, 2 minutes later and everything continues like before. I'm fairly non-confrontational, but my frustration started to build and build throughout the screening until about 40 minutes in I snapped, in the most modest sense of the word, and said in a fairly loud voice to both the kid and entitled dad simultaneously, "For the love of God, can you please stop commenting on everything that happens in the movie? We all paid for the tickets, and we all would like to enjoy it in peace." My friends broke out in laughter, and I could hear some laughter from the rest of the venue because the kid was loud enough to annoy the entire venue, but I was fuming. But that became a lot worse when entitled dad just said to his kid, "Don't listen. You can do whatever you want." In hindsight, I would like to have said something right then and there, but sadly I didn't. The continuous remarks kept on coming until he finally had to go to the bathroom. Finally, 5 minutes of quiet, the best part of the movie. But when they came back, entitled dad seated himself and his kid straight behind me. Now, not only had I to endure these comments on double the volume, but I also had a kid kicking and rocking my seat on a near constant basis. He even started getting bored at the end and climbed on his and another seat and whined for his dad's phone at near the end. It was a nightmare. I was planning to say something to entitled dad and the kid after the movie, but they left with the speed of light as soon as the credits started rolling. I'm sorry this didn't have a satisfying ending. The entitled dad and kid didn't get banned for life. They were owned and speechless after my remark, and they continued as if nothing had happened. But hey, it's something, I guess. This may not seem like a big story, but it was really frustrating at the time and thought I'd just share. I still enjoyed the movie itself though, apart from the kid and entitled dad obviously. Did you see the Sonic movie? And if so, did you like it? I still haven't seen it, but maybe you can help me decide if I should. I ignore customers because the boss said so. After graduating college, I worked for about 6 months as a cashier at a local branch of a chain sandwich shop. Mostly it was a great job. Customers were mostly polite. My coworkers were friendly and helpful, and I genuinely believed in the company's products. Even my bosses were pretty great, except for one. We'll call him the jerk. The jerk was belligerent, vindictive, nitpicky, and pretty much an awful boss in every way a boss can be awful. He had the type of crappy, no excuses policy that defined excuse as literally anything besides, "Yes, sir, of course, sir." I could go on and on about all the different ways he was terrible, but this story is about one specific flavor of his awfulness. During our shifts, each employee had a certain section of the store they were assigned to keep clean in addition to their duties. The cashier section was the front counters and displays and the coffee kiosk. I don't know if it was officially the manager's job, but as long as I worked there, whoever was the shift manager always took care of the outside patio area, except for the jerk. At first, he would just say things to me like, "I'm really busy right now. Could you clean the patio?" Which was fine. Part of the job description stated that if you had free time and the manager asked you to do something extra, you did it. He was well within his rights. But one day, he suddenly started asking me why I was shirking my duties by not keeping the patio clean. After all, the patio was part of my section. It wasn't and never had been. I asked the other cashiers, and they all agreed they had never been told anything about the patio being part of the cashier section. I didn't mind helping out with the patio if my other cashier duties were done, but it irked me that he had taken something extra I was doing to be helpful and turned it into something that I was neglecting my duties if I didn't do. It felt like a bait and switch, and I felt cheated. The bigger problem, though, was that keeping the patio clean through my entire shift was a huge pain for me as a cashier. In the afternoons, I was often the only one at the counter, and customers would trickle in with a few minutes between each group. This meant that I was constantly having to run back and forth between the patio and the register, which confused customers and made it hard to get any actual work done on the patio. One day, when this was particularly bad, the jerk came up front and started asking me why I hadn't cleaned the patio. I started to explain that I kept having to come back inside to serve customers, but he cut me off. I don't remember his exact words, but it was something along the lines of, "That's no excuse. Cleaning the patio is part of your job. Now go outside and do your job. Don't come back inside until the patio is clean." That last sentence was music to my ears. I assured him that of course I would do exactly as he said, went outside and started cleaning. A few minutes later, a family walked past me through the front doors into the store. Through the large front window, I watched them stand, confused in front of the register. There was no one at it to serve them. The jerk had gone back into his office to attend his oh-so-important manager duties. I continued to clean the patio. A few minutes later, another family came in and joined the first, standing confused and now annoyed in front of the counter. At this point, the jerk must have noticed them on the security camera because he came out of his office and started ringing them up. Then came another set of customers, and another. The jerk was at the register, so he had to serve them. He was now being forced to cover my job because I was too busy doing his. I finished cleaning the patio and came inside, and the jerk immediately tore into me, asking where I had been. Why wasn't I at the counter? Couldn't I see there were customers? I put on my most innocent smile. "But you told me not to come back inside until I'd finished cleaning the patio. I assumed that meant you would take care of serving customers, since I couldn't possibly be two places at the same time." He just glared at me for the longest moment, then mumbled something about how I should have known what he meant and I was never to pull a stunt like that again, and shuffled back to his office. Not much of a victory in the grand scheme of things, but seeing the momentary flash of panic in his eyes as he realized his "do as I say, no excuses" policy had backfired had me giddy for the rest of the day. The frustrated wife. Another story from the petrol station. So we had a guy come in and fill up his fuel. He came inside and realized he had left his card at home, a good 30-minute drive away. I tell him that it's fine, as long as he can get back before the end of my shift. I won't have to report it as a drive-off. He thanks me, leaves his details, and leaves. All around a decent guy. Cut forward 20 minutes or so, and the store gets a call. Me. "Hello?" Wife. "Hi, my husband was just there and left his card at home." Me. "Oh yeah, that's okay. I said as long as he could get back."
No, it's not convenient for us tonight.
Me. "Oh, well, I'm afraid that..."
No, you don't understand. It's inconvenient for him to drive all the way back tonight. We have kids and we have plans with them tonight. Important plans, so he can just pay it off later.
Me. "Well, I'm sorry, but if he cannot return by the end of my shift, I will have to write it up and inform police about it."
That's a ridiculous overreaction. I'll just pay over the phone by reading out my card number.
Me. "I'm sorry, but we cannot accept payment over the phone for legal reasons. It's store policy."
You're making that up. It's inconvenient and my husband won't be returning tonight. Now, let me pay over the phone.
"Sorry, but the system won't let me, even if I..."
Get me your manager.
Me. "I'm the only one on tonight, but I'm happy to give you the number for head office."
And they can let me pay over the phone to them?
Me. "No, absolutely not. But if you wish to complain, you can explain to them." She hangs up. About 10 minutes later, I get a call from head office. Me. "Hello?" Head office. "Hi, this is head office calling in regards to a call we just got from a customer. She claimed you told her that she could pay for her husband's petrol over the phone. You realize this is against company policy." Me. "No, sorry, but I absolutely told her that she couldn't pay over the phone. She wouldn't listen to me." Head office. I suspected as such. She was being difficult." Me. "Yeah." Head office. "Well, that makes me feel better about what I said. I told her she was lucky you let her husband leave at all. You should have insisted he leave his car there while he got a cab home and back. I also told her that if they weren't back to pay in 40 minutes, the police would be called immediately and they would have a criminal record." Me. "How did she take that?" Head office. "She was suddenly very cooperative." 20 minutes later, the husband returns and pays for the fuel. I tell him thanks and to apologize to the wife for not being able to pay over the phone. He's confused by this. I explained what happened. He had no idea. He texted her saying he would be back late as he was going to pick up his card. She called us and complained without letting him know. He was not pleased. just shook his head and left apologizing. Customer: I'm so sorry. She does this all the time. You don't get paid enough to deal with that. Entitled kid chops down my tree, costs her 500,000 pounds, 700,000 US dollars. Background information. We live in an old and big manor that has been split into 3 attached houses. The houses are about 150 years old and were built around 5 huge giant sequoias, which were about 250 years old. In the UK, giant sequoias are very rare, and the 2 in our garden upped the house price by about 60,000 pounds. We lived next to 2 really nice neighbors, one young couple and one old couple. The story. Unfortunately, our old neighbors passed, so their kid and her family moved in. Let's call her Jo. Jo was instantly a pain in the butt. We had been sharing chickens with the previous neighbors, and Jo agreed to keep sharing them. However, on her nights, she would constantly forget to put them away, so we would have to check them every night anyway. One night, her little brats thought it would be funny to open our personal duck pen in the night. About 2 years ago, there was a storm, and one of her sequoias somehow fell over and died. They were distraught, understandably, but from then on, the jealousy started. She would constantly complain about how lucky we were to have 2 sequoias in our garden and how our sequoia was making too much shade in their garden. It wasn't. Anyway, we just thought it was Jo being a pain. There were a few dry threats, like they would chop it down or maybe the next storm would blow it down. Until we came back from a holiday to France to find our huge 6-meter stump and nothing else. I mean, how the heck do you get rid of a 100-foot tree in like 2 weeks? 2 of our old British oak trees had been crushed as well. My mom and sisters were crying. My dad was red in the face, and we had no evidence Jo had done it. She claimed that there had been a storm and she had to get rid of it. We had a security camera at the front of the house, but you can get in the back if you go through a few fields. We then were given an 8,000-pound bill for damages to her property and to have the tree chopped up and removed. The wood alone would have been worth a small fortune. We had lost all hope, and 2 weeks had passed when my dad came running in from the garden. We had put up a wildlife camera a few months ago and had caught everything. We got a lawyer on the phone and started our revenge. We got a tree surgeon out who said it was an original specimen brought into the UK in 1860, along with the 2 that were in Elveston Castle Country Park. There were 218 around the UK, but only 60 now. He also told us to call out an engineer because the roots might be in the foundation, so when they rot, it could damage the house. Turns out, we would need to redo the foundations. Then we took Jo to court and sued them for damage to property, trespassing, and emotional damage. The tree would cost $250,000 to have another sequoia that was 250 years old put in and looked after. It's basically impossible. Plus the damage to the foundation, which was $200,000, and the 2 oaks, which were another $25,000. So with the emotional, it went to about 500,000 pounds or 700,000 US dollars. They had to move out. And we have now paid off the mortgage, done a lovely loft and kitchen conversion, and have basically done up the house and garden as well as plant a 60-year-old sequoia tree in the back garden. We also had our kitchen counter and table made from the old sequoia. We now have a new lovely family living next to us who we share chickens, ducks, and pygmy goats with. They're very nice, and I make a fortune babysitting their kids. Telco wants to cut me off due to my ex-husband's bankruptcy. Well, I now have a free iPhone 11 Pro. My ex and I went bankrupt due to him not paying bills and his company going under. Joint names, unfortunately, as I was working and he needed my name to buy the business. It sucks, but that's a whole nother story. I have always paid my bills for every utility, so when all this went down in January this year, all other contracts, including a salary-sacrificed car, just continued on. In December, I smashed my phone screen. The repair cost was about $800, so I used my insurance that I had been paying as part of my phone plan to replace it with a brand new iPhone 11 Pro. $50 per month for the service and $75 per month for the phone. I got a call in early March from the telco insolvency team telling me I can't have a contract with them due to bankruptcy. They said they want to change my phone to a prepaid account. They also said I cannot have a home internet and landline account with them anymore, which freaked me out. No Wi-Fi and kids at home. I checked it out with a bankruptcy trustee and they said legally it's not a problem, but if the company policy states as such, they can do it. I also spoke with the telecommunications ombudsman and they told me I could fight it if I wanted to, as I am still under contract. I had a big argument with the telco on the phone again, trying to explain that my bills were always paid early and that it is in their best interest to let me continue to pay out the contracts as their fees were on top of the purchase of the phone and modem. No go. She did not want to hear a bar of it. I shopped around and found a new internet provider and landline, needed for homeschooling at the moment, and then let the telco swap me off my plan to prepaid. I then ported my prepaid phone number over to a new internet company. I have had the same number since my first phone and didn't want to change it. Then, the telco sent me a bill to pay out the iPhone and the modem. Final bill was $2,300, which I promptly replied with the bankruptcy number and trustee details and included the passage from legislation that says they cannot contact me about it again. The best part is my new company uses the old company's satellites, so my coverage is still excellent, but also uses another company's as well, so it's now actually better. Stupid telco that is the biggest in the country, they are too dumb to just let me pay what I owe as agreed. Let my son live with you and eat all of your food. Hey people of Reddit, this isn't my story, but it's my cousin's. My cousins and their roommate told me this story last January. I thought it was funny, so I thought I'd share. By the way, cousin and his roommate are both 16 and my little cousin is 12. An entitled mom demanded that her 12-year-old first-year son be allowed to live in the room with my cousins and their roommate. Meet everybody. We've got my older cousin, my little cousin, the roommate, entitled mom, entitled kid, security guard, and entitled kid's roommate. The setting. My cousins go to a very elite, private, all-boys school, grades 6 through 12 in the New England region of the United States, so it's not uncommon to encounter an entitled parent and kid here or there. Now let me state that my cousins are not entitled. They apply for financial aid and have campus jobs to afford the $60,000 a year tuition. Now, my older cousin is the student body president of the school. Because of this, the president gets a room that is 1,200 square feet, has a fully functional kitchen and a bathroom. The room also has a large living space, balcony, and office. The other rooms just have 2 beds, 2 closets, 1 desk, and a small window, and they're around 150 square feet. Because my little cousin is related to older cousin, he was allowed to live in the room versus the standard dorms. Cousin's roommate was also the student body treasurer, so the dean allowed him to live in the room too, because he was my cousin's friend. With 3 guys living together, there was a surplus of video games and junk food, just guys being guys. With the new semester starting, student body officers had to help with orientation, helping the parents get their first-year students settled in. Because little cousin was already settled in, he was just playing games on the PS4 with the door open. Cue entitled mom and kid. Entitled mom, nice at first.
Excuse me,
Little cousin, yes?
I'm looking for my son's dorm and I can't find it. Can you help me?
Little cousin, hey, I'm new here myself, so I don't know much. My brother is responsible for helping first years, so let me call him. Entitled mother and her son wait for about 25 minutes for older cousin to arrive. So little cousin was playing games with entitled kid on the PS4, eating junk food, and showed them around the room. Older cousin arrives. Hey, I'm older cousin. You must be the mom trying to find her son's dorm. Entitled mom, now rude.
Yes, I've been waiting for someone to help me.
Older cousin first disregards her tone as orientation day is hard. Older cousin goes on his phone with the info that the mom gives and directs her. Apparently, entitled kid only lives down the hallway to the left. Entitled mom leaves with entitled kid and his luggage. Entitled kid says in that gosh-awful voice as he's leaving,
I want to play more games.
Entitled mom says,
You can later.
Older cousin has this geez look on his face, closes the door, and plays on the PS4 with little cousin. 10 minutes later, there are loud bangs on the door. Older cousin sees who it is. It's entitled mom and her brat. They've returned with his luggage.
I need your help, now.
Her brat runs to the PS4. Older cousin, what seems to be the problem? Entitled mom starts whining.
My son's room is small. It's not like this one. Who do we talk to about this?
Older cousin, I'm sorry. If you're unsatisfied with your living situation, you'll have to talk to a counselor about his situation. And nobody has a room like this one because I'm the president. The entitled kid starts rummaging through games. Entitled kid,
Do you have Fortnite?
hey, put that down.
Don't talk to my son that way. Besides, My son needs more living space. Do something.
At this time, entitled kid is still rummaging. Then little cousin pushes him to the side and locks the game cabinet, and he starts screaming. Roommate was also returning to the room with his lunch. Entitled kid,
I want to play games.
little cousin, this is our room, and you can't use my things if I don't want you to. Entitled kid screams.
I wanna.
Roommate, what's going on? Entitled mom interrupts.
These boys won't help me find a room like this one for my son.
Roommate, oh, that's impossible. This is the only room like this one. Besides, this room is only for the president. Entitled mom condescendingly.
Then how come you're here?
Roommate explains. Roommate, little cousin is related to older cousin, so he can stay here. I'm in student government with older cousin, which allows me to live here. Older cousin, yeah, I told her that. Entitled mom then says to older cousin and roommate,
You should let my son live here.
Entitled kid overhears his mom. He now thinks that he lives in the room. He goes to the fridge and tries to get a soda. Little cousin blocks him and says, You are not our guest, nor do you live here. Don't touch our food. Entitled kid,
Forget you. This is my room too, and you have to share.
older cousin then says to get her kid out because he's a nuisance and bothering them. Entitled mom says no. Older cousin and roommate are not having it. They ask her politely yet firmly to leave. Entitled mom walks in and proceeds to unpack her son's luggage. Entitled kid is also having a fit because little cousin isn't letting entitled kid have any food.
Mom, he won't let me have some donuts.
Don't worry, mommy will help after I unpack you. Older cousin and roommate firmly. Your son isn't living here.
Yes, he is. My son is an angel. You should be glad to be friends with him.
Older cousin, I'm not interested in living or being friends with your son. Leave now. Entitled mom ignores older cousin and continues to unpack with her entitled kid still screaming,
I want donuts.
He then screams at little cousin.
I want to play your games.
Little cousin says no. The kid then starts screaming high-pitched. Older cousin, little cousin, and roommate have had enough of this charade and then proceed to drag them out and throw his luggage in the hallway and lock the door. Entitled mom and son continue to bang and howl. Entitled mom promises that she'll get her son back in, so she leaves. At this time, friends were coming over, and someone accidentally let entitled kid in the room. People confused ask who he is. Entitled kid tells them who he is and that he lives there. Entitled kid then starts demanding to use the PS4. Older cousin sees him and kicks him out again, with him shouting,
I want to stay.
His mom then returns with a security guard. Entitled mom,
These boys kicked my son out of his room. Do something.
security guard, lady, I know for a fact that your son doesn't live here.
He needs to stay here. This room is much better than the other ones.
Security guard then asks if the mom is bothering them. Everybody says yes. He says, I'll take care of the mom, and asks cousin to watch the kid. Entitled kid is dragged out again, and he shouts,
My daddy will mess you up for this.
The mom was escorted off the campus grounds. Older cousin and roommate forcibly moved entitled kid into his room for him. Little cousin ended up becoming friends with entitled kid's roommate as the months have passed. Entitled kid has been so bratty and annoying that entitled kid's roommate has had sleepovers with my cousins almost every night. Because of this, entitled kid packs an overnight bag and almost always follows his roommate and demands to be let in. I was told it goes down like this. Entitled kid,
Let me in, roommate. You can't have a sleepover without me.
little cousin, go away. We're not letting you in.
I want to see my roommate. He'll vouch for me. You can't play games or have sleepovers without me.
Entitled kid's roommate comes out and puts ice cream on the table. Entitled kid's roommate, I stay here 4 to 5 days a week because I need a break from you. Please go away. Entitled kid,
OMG, traitor. So much for loyalty. The least you can do is share the ice cream.
roommate gets up and closes the door.
OMG, let me in. I'm not playing.
My cousin's roommate and entitled kid's roommate turn the volume on the TV louder and tune out his pleas and crying. They later woke up to him sleeping at the front door at 6 a.m. He stayed there for 10 hours. Update. My cousins gave me a recent update about the entitled mom and her entitled son that has been harassing them during the school year. They were going on vacation President's Day weekend. Entitled mom demanded that her son be allowed to vacation to New York City with them. So entitled kid's roommate's parents live in New York City around 5th Avenue. For those of you who don't know, Fifth Avenue is some of the most expensive real estate in the city. Entitled Kid's roommate's parents were allowing my cousins and their roommate to stay in New York for free, with meals included because they are friends with Entitled Kid's roommate. All my cousins had to do was drive there, which is around 3 hours. As Entitled Kid had been harassing my cousins, their roommate, and his roommate all semester, he overheard the situation and he demanded to go. When his attempts to go fail, he then calls his mom, who drives from another state, to demand that the gang take her son on vacation with them. So in February on the 20th, my cousins, their roommate, and Entitled Kid's roommate are talking to little cousin to try and get a game plan together for the New York trip. Entitled Kid hears his roommate's phone call about planning the trip, and then it goes as follows. Entitled Kid, hey, where are you going? His roommate, home to New York with the guys? Why?
Can I come too? Please.
I think not.
Why not?
I don't want you at my house or around my family. Entitled Kid gets upset, then his roommate goes to the room to hang with my cousins and their roommate. Entitled Kid then follows. The door is shut in his face.
Let me in.
Everyone tells him to go away, and they proceed to plan for the vacation. Entitled Kid then proceeds to say,
let me in, or I'll get my mom.
Everyone knows that his mom lives in another state, so everyone was like, go get her then. The gang proceeded to plan the New York trip with Entitled Kid begging to be let in. This proceeded for 3 hours, and then his mom came. She drove from the next state over. She knocked on the door, they opened it, and it went like this. Just so you know, my older cousin didn't remember who Entitled Mom was at first because it had been a month since he had last seen her, but her behavior soon jogged his memory. Around this time, everyone was preparing to leave as they had made all of the final preparations. Older cousin, hello, can I help you?
Yes, my son says you won't let him go to New York with you guys. Why won't you?
Older cousin has this, why me look on his face. Older cousin, I'm sure that you remember our last conversation. Me, my roommate, and brother want nothing to do with your son. The place where we're staying is Entitled Kid's roommate's house, and he has expressed that he doesn't want him to come. Entitled Mom and Kid look upset, and she says that she can pay for her son to go if that's the problem. Then little cousin gets involved. Little cousin, look, it doesn't matter that you can pay for him to go. We just don't want him to go. Entitled Mom, he is going. Don't you know who I am? How dare you speak to me that way? My son will be going with you on this trip, and that's that. Then Entitled Kid's roommate gets involved. His roommate, hey, I don't want your kid at my house. Seriously, he's been bothering me all semester and has made things harder for me. I sure as heck don't want him near my family or my home. Entitled Kid butts in with his attitude.
OMG, why do you have to be so mean? You spend all your time here and never invite me. You have to let me come to make it up to me.
His roommate, no I don't. It's my house. Then Entitled Kid starts wailing and demands his mom let him go to New York with them. Older cousin with an annoyed and sarcastic voice says, well, nice seeing you again. Bye. The gang proceeds to lock up the room and bring the luggage down to the car. Everyone goes on one last bathroom break before they get on the road. However, little cousin didn't lock the car. For those of you that know, Fords have a keypad on the driver door to lock and unlock the car. Little cousin didn't press the buttons right and the car didn't lock. When the gang came back to the car, Entitled Kid was in the back seat with his headphones on, with his mom waving as she drives away. It goes as follows. Roommate, hey, come back.
Have fun in New York.
They realize that her kid has just been dumped on them and that they are stuck. Little cousin says that we should call security, so older cousin does. They explain on the phone that Entitled Mom dumped her kid on them and that they're bringing him over because he is not their responsibility. Entitled Kid takes off his headphones and says,
come on already, get this crap box,
94 Crown Victoria,
in gear.
Now the security office is around half a mile from the dorms, so for a while, Entitled Kid had this look on his face like he had won. When they pull up to the security office, his smirk disappears, as both the captain of the school and the dean were there. The captain says, you want to explain what you're doing in older cousin's car? Entitled Kid is sweating bullets and nervously says,
I'm going on vacation. My mom said I could.
The captain then says to them, is this true? Everyone, no! His mom just demanded that we let him go. She put him in and drove off. The captain then orders Entitled Kid out of the car. Entitled Kid then asks for older cousin to pop the trunk so he can get his bag out. Everyone just has this, "you gotta be kidding" look when he said that. The dean, who I'm told is a very kind old man, he gave Entitled Kid a very firm talking to. It went like this. Dean, in my 35 years, I've never had to deal with a more petulant child than you. I was light on your punishment the first time. That won't be the case this time. Your behavior is unacceptable. You have put me in an impossible position. The dean and the captain take Entitled Kid away. He was put on probation, so that meant he couldn't participate in sports or other events, was given 20 days detention doing landscaping, and a security guard personally escorted him to and from classes. All in all, the gang had a pretty good vacation. Entitled Mom did call Entitled Kid's roommate's phone to lay into everybody. She was quickly blocked, and they haven't heard from her since. Soccer Mom is mad I fired her no-show daughter. We've got Entitled Soccer Mom. We've got her daughter, who works under me and also plays soccer. She's 18. And we've got me. So this takes place a few years back. It was shortly before my store manager abruptly quit, and I ended up running the store for a third of the year. Part of my role involved dealing with staffing issues. At this Dress for Less store, it is very hard to get fired for anything, including being a no-show. If you had 2 consecutive no-shows or 3 non-consecutive no-shows in a short period, you could be let go for job abandonment. You could call in all the time and still have a job, and some did for a while, but then you would get a lot fewer hours after that because we could not rely on you. My boss was still making the schedule, and he based it around the availability that was provided to him by staff. So Entitled Kid had turned in her availability at the start of the semester, and she was scheduled around that. She had maybe 1 to 2 days a week scheduled on tops. At this point, she had not shown up for about 2 weeks, leading to 3 non-consecutive days. I worked that evening and tried to call her to get a hold of her. On the second day of her not answering, about 3 calls, I decided to leave a voicemail. Hi Entitled Kid, this is OP at the retail store. Due to you having 3 consecutive days of not showing up for work, we are going to have to end your employment with us. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you. It was the script my company gave me. I let the manager know, and all was settled. The next morning, I opened the store, and at the moment, I was in the office getting some paperwork ready for the day. The phone rang, and I picked it up to an angry voice demanding to speak to me. I politely said that I was me, and how could I be of help. She proceeded to yell at me how I ruined her daughter's day. I stated that I did not know who she was referring to, but that I do not recall doing anything today that could be looked at that way. She then told me she was Entitled Kid's mom and that what we did was unprofessional and horrible. I told her that since her daughter is 18, I cannot go into details of her employment. "My daughter is just a kid," she screamed. "Legally, that is not true," I replied. "Well, you scheduled my daughter for times she cannot work, and when she has school and practice, so she should not be fired." I calmly replied that we staff our store based on the availability that is provided to us, and it is set in the system so that it will only allow that. She said that is not true, and that her daughter is on a soccer scholarship at a local community college. I replied, that is good for her, but if she is scheduled to work and cannot, she needs to be able to let us know, as we do have a business to run. "My daughter is going to school on a soccer scholarship, and she has to practice hard on soccer, so you have to work around that," she yelled. We staff based on the availability we are provided, and for staff to be employed here, they do have to show up for their shifts, I replied, a little testily. At this point, she follows up with, "My daughter is going to school to get a much better job than you have in retail. She is going to be a teacher." I curtly replied, "Oh, that's nice. One of my degrees is in education." "And you work here?" she said demeaningly. "I do, and luckily it pays about twice as much as a teacher makes. So there is nothing in you that can talk down to me," I replied angrily as I slammed down the phone. The job market for teachers isn't good, and I wasn't necessarily delighted with my career at the moment due to some life situations. She called back immediately, and I picked it up, and when I heard it was her, I hung up again. She did not call back after. Don't tell me what color to wear. As I was growing up, my fingernails got the worst end of chewing multiple times daily. They and my cuticles were ragged. My mom had tried many times to break me out of the habit, but it wasn't until I was 14 that I really put my mind to it and tried to stop. It was hit, or should I say bit, or miss for several months. When I had the chewing under control, my mom was really invested in helping me maintain it. We went shopping and she let me pick out the colors of several bottles of nail polish. This was in the 70s. Yeah, I know, way back in the dinosaur era. Vibrant colors had just become popular, and I chose pastel shades of blue, green, and yellow. My mother spent a couple of hours on a Sunday giving me a manicure and used the green shade of polish. They were so beautiful, and I vowed never to chew my nails again. At this point in time, I was a sophomore in high school. I didn't have many friends, and I usually walked the campus alone. A couple of days after my nails had been painted green, I was stopped as I was walking to class by one of the mean girls in her group. She, who was a senior, said,
I heard you're wearing green nail polish. Let me see your hands.
I timidly held them out because the rumors about this girl weren't exactly glowing. She looked at my nails and said,
Where did you get the polish? And what made you think you could wear it to school?
I told her my mother had bought it for me and there weren't any school rules saying I couldn't.
Well, I didn't say you could, and you'd better not wear it again.
I was genuinely scared because of her reputation. Who was she to tell me what to do? But I wasn't looking forward to her beating me up either. That night, I said goodnight to my parents, went to my room, and sadly, reluctantly removed the polish. The next day, about halfway through the day, I was again spotted by Mean Girl, as always with her Mean Girl crew. She demanded to see my hands, and I told her I wasn't wearing green nail polish. She reached out and grabbed my arm, pulling my hand up. She said,
What did I tell you?
I replied, You said you didn't want to see the green polish. You never said anything about blue. Mean Girl quickly let go of my arm, and I really don't remember what she said. All I knew was I was alive and in one piece. For the remainder of her last year at the high school, she would give me dirty looks, but never again spoke to me. Middle school mischief. So when I was about 12, my best friend and I started being allowed to go to the mall by ourselves. I had a cell phone, and as long as we stayed together. My best friend had a super strict mother who was way too obsessed with making her a mini adult while letting her other siblings do pretty much whatever they wanted. Well, this was back in the early 2000s, where Hot Topic was still dark and scary, but was one of the few places to get anime merchandise. This started a few weeks before my best friend's birthday, and my mom had dropped us off so I could get an idea of what to get best friend for her birthday. So we are walking around Hot Topic and looking at the Naruto stuff when I see a graphic t-shirt with her favorite character on it. Me, Hey, best friend, look, you should get this. Best friend, Oh, I'm not allowed to have graphic t-shirts. I was confused. It was just a t-shirt. It didn't have anything bad on it like some of those other ones. It was a ninja in a silly pose. He didn't even have a weapon. Me, Why aren't you allowed to have t-shirts? Friend, Mom says I have to always dress like I would for work, and graphic t-shirts aren't appropriate. I really don't like my friend's mom, and honestly thought she was dumb because we were 12. No one is looking for a 12-year-old to manage their car dealership. We go around the mall the rest of the day, and every time she sees these shirts with our favorite characters on them, I can tell she wants them, but she can't buy them. At one point, I convinced her to text her mom and ask about a cute tank top she wanted with Pikachu on it, and told her she could wear it to the gym. Nope, big mistake. Her mom flipped. She showed me the texts, and well, they weren't nice. I was furious, and then came the fatal text.
I forbid you to buy those shirts. You'll look like a slob, like OP.
Oh, now it was on. So we went home, and I was still stewing. We never told best friend's mom that I saw that message, and I didn't dare tell my mom. But I thought about my dad, and thought about all the things he has done to tick people off who were rude to him like that, with malicious compliance and mischief. Ding! I then remembered the key words in the text. When it came time for me to buy a present for my friend, I bought her all those shirts that we had seen and a few more I knew she would love, and wrapped them in a gift box. Fast forward to the party. Best friend is opening her gift and gets to mine. She opens the box and sees all the shirts I got her, and her eyes go wide. Instantly, her mom is ticked. I can see it through her forced smile, because I know her mom is far too polite to deny her the gift. I also knew just what to say to get her not to chuck them in the trash immediately after the party. Me. My mom and I thought they were adorable, and now we match. Now she knew my mom would expect to see them as well. Later, when we were away from her mom, we laughed a bit about it, and she asked me why I got them. I reminded her that she was forbidden to buy the shirts, not me. For years afterwards, this was our system for getting around the rules. To avoid this getting any longer, here's a quick list of other issues we got around in a similar way, and yes, I either heard her mom say these things or read them through texts.
You have too many books. You can't buy any more.
I bought her a gift card to a giant bookshop that no longer exists.
You can't buy comic books. They'll rot your brain.
bought her about $50 worth of comics.
Dungeons and Dragons is evil. Don't you dare buy those books.
Cool. Bought her the handbook, a set of dice, and some minis. So yeah, her mom would get super irritated with me, but she also still liked me. I think she likes me, but because she was super religious, didn't like how I was being raised, because I was a good friend, and she thought I was innocent in all her lectures about this stuff. I would never buy her anything that was actually bad, just things that were harmless and made her happy. My dad might have also helped in this as well by buying us our first convention tickets when he heard her mom say that those conventions were for freaks and overweight nerds, which he took as a jab at me. I'm not super skinny, but not fat either, and also helped us get our costumes together for the convention because her mom refused. Have you ever gone to a convention of any sort? If not, do you think you ever would? Please let me know, I'd really love to hear from you. Karen learns why you should never pet someone else's dog without permission. Backstory. When I was in my early teens, I was friends with a girl who lived a few houses down from me. I never really was allowed over to her house because of my parents, but today was the second or third, but last time I had been there after school. My mom stopped by, as she for some reason latched on really quickly to my friend's mom and would periodically stop by to complain about her crappy marriage to her. As you can imagine, my friend's mom didn't really like this, but she was always polite. They have a dog who was a rescue, as he had come from a bad home that hurt him. On top of this, he was a senior and had a ton of medical conditions. He really was a good boy who was a big ball of affection towards her family. My mom comes knocking on the door and the following goes down. Friend's mom. 2 seconds, I'll be right there. Mom.
Friend's mom, is that you?
Friend's mom, realizing it's Karen again, knows exactly what she's here for. I see her mentally prepare herself before opening the door. Hello? Mom.
Hi, how are you?
Friend's mom. Hello, Karen. I'm okay, thanks. And you?
Oh, terrible. My husband's seeing other women. And
dog slowly walks over to see who's at the door and stops in front of Karen. Mom.
Huh? Look at the puppy. Oh, sweet boy, come here.
She steps inside the house and quickly gets close to the dog, who starts cowering from the sudden loud presence. Friend's mom places her hand on the dog's back to comfort him. Yeah, he's a bit nervous with new people and doesn't like a lot of noise. Mom ignores her.
Aw, so cute. Look at the little puppy.
She gets down on her knees and shuffled over to him. Friend's mom. I don't think you should be getting too close to him. I'm watching from afar, but start to come over. I see the dog is starting to tense up, and my friend's mom is trying to comfort him while trying to slowly take him away. But my entitled mom keeps getting closer.
He's just shy. Don't worry, I have a dog.
I know what I'm doing. Who's a good boy? The dog tries to turn his face away from her. She forcefully takes his face into her hands and presses her face against his snout. Me. Mom. Mom.
Good boy. Hello.
The dog snaps at her, growling as he nips her right in the face. We all yell in shock, and friend's mom quickly takes him away. Probably good to mention he's a big dog. The dog runs off and hides somewhere. Mom holding her face. She stumbles back and starts crying.
Your dog bit me.
Friend's mom. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? He's never done that before.
He bit me.
Friend. Dog has never bitten anyone before. He's completely docile. He came from a bad home originally and was probably scared from you getting too close and loud.
Oh, so it's my fault? You should not have such a dangerous animal.
They try to calm her down while she argues and shouts to all the neighbors about their aggressive dog. She refuses to let go of her face and is still crying. Somehow, we manage to convince her to show us her face. Not even a scratch. Not even any slobber. The dog must have just snapped as a warning rather than actually causing any harm. Yet she's still insisting he hurt her and implies he should be euthanized. This upsets us all, of course. My mom tells me to come with her and that she doesn't want me around a dangerous animal. I say goodbye to my friend and follow my mom outside. My friend's mom, despite the whole ordeal, was the bigger person and walked us out. My mom turns to her and suddenly seems unbothered by her supposedly injured face.
So, about my husband, my marriage is in a really bad place.
She starts to go on about how bad my dad is to her, but she shakes her head. Friend's mom. I don't know what to tell you. Mom.
Shh, you aren't gonna listen?
Friend's mom. You said you wanted to go home because of your face.
Yeah, but I'm being nice to you even after your dog bit me.
We got home soon after, and my mom was ranting about calling the police, the news, the town, anyone who would listen to her sob story. Instead, she called her friend over to make up a scheme to try and get this poor dog put down, only for both of them to drink way too much wine to remember. I asked my mom how her face was in the morning, and all she responded with was,
I don't want to talk about it.
The dog is still around today, but ancient as heck. Still a good boy. Has anyone ever tried to pet your dog without permission? If so, how did you handle it? Random Karen takes my stuffed animal during my vacation to Disney World. My favorite Disney movie is Alice in Wonderland, and one year my family took a trip down to Disney World. I immediately went to the Disney store at Magic Kingdom and bought a Cheshire Cat plush because he's my favorite character. I put it in my backpack, but it wasn't small enough, so its head and front paws stuck out the top with the 2 zippers securing it in place. Well, my brothers, 15 and 16 at the time, didn't like Disney animated movies and wanted to ride the Tower of Terror ride. My mom also didn't want to ride the Mad Tea Party ride over and over while we waited for my brothers to get on the bus, go to the park, ride the ride, then come back. So she went with them. I was 13 at the time, so I had a cell phone and $100 that I saved over the past year, so my mom left me at Magic Kingdom while she went with my brothers to go to Hollywood Studios. I did the most obvious thing and immediately went to the Mad Tea Party and waited in line. Here come our cast. We've got me, we've got Entitled Mom, and Entitled Kid. Mostly innocent, but I don't know what to call him. I found the ride and stood in line. It was fairly short, so in the next turn or two I would get to ride. That's when Entitled Kid and Entitled Mom get in line behind me. I feel a tug on my backpack and turn around. I see Entitled Kid reaching for my plush.
Can I play with the kitty?
He asks. He looks like he's about 6. Sorry, but I just bought it and I don't want it to get ruined, I say, and just to be safe, I take it out of the bag and hold it. Entitled Kid starts crying. Entitled Mom shoots daggers at me and yells,
What did you say to my son?
I jumped in surprise, so did other people in the line. I just said he couldn't play with my Cheshire plush.
Spoiled brat. Give my son that stuffed animal. He deserves it, and spoiled brats like you don't.
She tried to rip the plush from my hands. I did the only thing I could think of. I started growling like a cat. The Entitled Mom started screaming and calling me a werewolf. Until a security guard, I think he was wearing the same outfit as the people who check your bags, we'll call him security guard. What is going on here? He asked.
This thief stole my son's plush.
And then growled at us.
This thief stole my son's plush, then growled at us,
Entitled Mom said, pointing at me. Instantly, people came to my defense, saying things like it was my plush. Security guard put up a hand to silence everyone, then asked me, Did you take the plush? I answered, No, it was mine to begin with. Her kid asked to play with it, and I said no. Then she yelled at me and tried to take it.
She's lying,
Entitled Mom yelled. Raise your hand if Entitled Mom had the plush first, security guard said to the other people in line. None of them raised their hands. Looks like you're the liar, ma'am. If you continue this behavior, then I will have to kick you out of the park, security guard said to Entitled Mom. I'm sorry, miss, he said to me. I just nodded, took my plush back, and waited calmly in line while Entitled Mom stared daggers at my back. I don't know what happened to her or her kid after that. I just rode the ride like 3 times and explored the park before my brothers and my mom came back. Speaking of Disney World, what's your favorite theme park of all time? Please let me know. Karen demands that I leave a public library. I know a lot of people make up extravagant stories for Reddit, but I can assure you, I am not one of them. So I never thought I would meet an entitled person like this, but here we go. Alright, so I was hanging out in the library with 2 friends of mine, and we were working on a presentation we had to get done as a group project. We're in a library, but we're in the part with a bunch of computers and everything, so it's a lot less quiet. Me and my friends are still talking in hushed tones, and at some point, one of us laughs, and the woman next to us, who seems to be quite a bit older than us, then turns and the conversation goes a little like this. Karen.
Can you leave?
Me. What?
You're talking, and you shouldn't be here just to play games.
Me. Excuse me, but we're working on a presentation.
You're not working. You're laughing.
Sorry to disturb you, but I can assure you that we're working. I turned back to the presentation, and my friends, who were dumbfounded and didn't say anything, giggled quietly. The thing is, I go to libraries a lot and understand that she would want some quiet, but I really wouldn't make too much noise, and even if I did, she would know that we're working. We just started talking even more quietly and continue working. Mind you that there were 3 boys opposite us that were talking really loud and a group of guys that we knew in the next room over that we could still hear. She pays no mind to them. I made a joke and one of my friends laughs again. Karen,
You have to leave.
me, why? We didn't do anything.
You're not working and you're laughing.
Me, aware that she made the same point twice because she has nothing better to say. What? Is it illegal to laugh? And if it's bothering you so much, maybe you should move to another computer. Keep in mind, I said this as politely as I could considering how irritated I was. And there were 2 separate floors with loads of free computers, and I would have probably offered to move had she not been so rude about it.
You know, when I was your age, I actually worked.
Me, we are working. Can we get back to that please, or is that bothering you too?
You're so disrespectful. You have to leave.
No, I don't. I'm taking advantage of the facilities at my disposal instead of wasting my time on berating students.
So disrespectful.
She gets back to whatever she was doing on her computer and keeps periodically looking at us and muttering under her breath. When we do finally pick up our stuff, she yells after me.
Put away your chair. Don't leave a mess.
I was in the middle of putting the chair away when she said that, but I ignored her and left with my friends. Funny thing is, I'm pretty sure she made more noise by getting mad at us than we ever did in the library. We're not allowed to eat where the residents can see us? I hope you don't mind your phone ringing off the hook. I work in a nursing home on the 3 to 11 shift as a certified nursing assistant. What happens a lot is that CNAs will go to get food around 7:30 or 8 after they've put majority of their residents to bed. Some of the residents figured out when we normally eat lunch and come out to passively beg for our food or try to give us money to go get them some. Legally, we can't touch their money, especially if we have pizza. Don't even mention the word pizza in a nursing home unless you want a mob of people around you. A few residents complained about the CNAs teasing them with food they can't have by eating in front of them. The facility made it a rule that we could not eat where the residents can see us. The problem is, the break room is a side room attached to the dining room. Sometimes when we're in the break room eating, we could look up and see residents staring at us through the glass door. That means we can't even eat in the break room. The CNAs didn't even talk about this compliance, we just all did it. The facility put in a rule that we absolutely had to take our lunch break about a week before this happened because CNAs would put that they didn't have lunch at the time clock, which led to them getting paid overtime. Even if there was one CNA on the hall, that CNA still had to take a lunch break according to their rules. When I was the only CNA on a hall, I would pick up my lunch and eat while still answering call lights because I was the only CNA to answer them. But since I couldn't eat where the residents saw me, I stayed out of the building for lunch break. Because we stayed gone the entire time, they started getting complaints that call lights were being ignored. The nurses were doing their own malicious compliance because the director of nursing was jumping down their throats for answering lights while they were passing out medicine. "You can't lock up the cart to answer a light during med pass," is what she would screech at them. So when the aides were on lunch, the nurses weren't answering the lights either. No residents were harmed during this malicious compliance. This led to a lot of complaints and phone calls to the director's cell phone at night because the residents would call their family members who would then call the director. One night at around 7:45, the director stormed up to me while I was eating lunch in my car. She was in her pajamas, so I knew she wasn't happy. Director:
"Why aren't you on the hall? I'm getting phone calls about call lights not being answered."
Me: "I'm on my lunch break."
"You can't leave the hall unattended."
Me: "According to the in-service and the write-up that you made me sign, I have to take a lunch break whether I'm the only aide on the hall or not, and I'm not allowed to eat in front of the residents, so I can't be in there. We're also not allowed to work while off the clock." When she realized the corner her rules back us into, she practically short-circuited. She wasn't even making words anymore. She looked around and saw 2 other CNAs eating in their cars. These ladies were kind of sassy and weren't going to take any crap from her, so she didn't even bother. She stormed into the building, and I didn't see her again until my lunch break was over. She apparently answered the call lights in her pajamas. For anyone that is curious, The call lights she answered were for little things, like a resident who was on a fluid restriction wanting water or wanting their TV turned to a channel that the TV was already on. Those were the only two lights that were on according to my nurse. The director was furious that she had to drive down there to answer those lights since they didn't even need anything. Welcome to CNA work, jerk. The next day, we had a new in-service that said we can take our lunch in the break room, and they put a sad excuse of a blind on the glass door of the break room. They also put a sign on the break room that said staff only. This didn't stop residents from going in it though. The in-service also said that if there is only one aide on the hall, that aide cannot leave the hall unless they find another aide to watch it while they're gone. Sadly, she didn't stop bothering the nurses. I know some people would think we went too far with our compliance, but they were threatening termination for eating in front of the residents and for not taking a lunch break. I was suspended for 3 days before this compliance for not taking a lunch break, so there was nothing left to do but malicious compliance. The director and the administrator of the facility kissed up hardcore to the residents, which is why we had stupid rules like that. Thankfully, both of them are gone. I was told by the next director that the write-up and suspension would not be on my record, and they paid me for the 3 days I missed because there was no wrongdoing. My mom threw stuff at me because I refused to go to my grandma's house. This happened 2 years ago on a school holiday. The only thing I did was play games and overall just do my own thing, and since it was the holidays, me and my mom often go to my grandma's house to just come and visit her and see how she's doing, etc. For the first few days, I went with her to visit my grandma. Then, after a few days went by, my mom asked me if I wanted to go, but this time I refused. No reason really, I just didn't want to go because we visit her so often, and I just wanted this one whole day to myself, and the holiday was still long, so we could still visit her any other day. But apparently, saying no was the wrong thing to say. My mom started acting crazy and threw things at me like laundry, shoes, trash can, and anything else that could be thrown at me. She started screaming about how ungrateful I am and how I talk back to her and other things. She blamed the affair of my dad on me. She even told me how useless I am and that I never listened to her anymore. I can't even lie about this, but she literally screamed and threw things at me for an hour. She kept on berating on how useless and spoiled I am, that I don't even want to see my grandma. I don't even know how I made her this angry. All I said was, no, in a calming manner, and this happened. It's been a long time, so I don't really remember much of what she said, but I'll try to do my best to rephrase it.
Why are you so selfish? Why don't you want to see your grandmother?
I'm sorry, I just didn't want to, because we—
Don't talk back to me. I am your mother and you should listen to me. I take care and raised you for so many years,
And this is what you do to me?
refusing to visit your grandmother? All you do is play games. Don't you have enough? Why is it so hard for you to just listen to me? You are so useless and worthless. You already know I'm stressed out because of your father. And now this? You're such an entitled brat.
My dad heard the commotion and joined in. Entitled Mom.
Look at your daughter. She is so lazy, and all she does is sit and play games all day.
Entitled Dad. What's happening here?
She refused to come with me to her grandma's.
Entitled Dad.
OP, you should have listened to your mother. You're always on that computer. Why don't you go outside for once?
Me. But
What did I tell you about talking back?
I started silently crying and just stared at my computer screen, hoping that this would end soon. My mom saw this and said,
Why are you crying? Don't cry fake tears. You're just crying to get attention. But guess what? No one's here to help you.
After an hour passed, it finally stopped. She also told me to apologize to her for refusing to come. Sadly, there's no happy ending to this, and I reluctantly apologized to her, and even then she told me that,
This is why I sometimes wish that your friends were my daughters, because they at least respect their parents, unlike you.
don't explain to me how the time clock works until I'm missing hours, and I will abuse the system. I left the job I had been at for over 20 years to work for the town government where I lived. I had been salaried, but had burned out and took a job with a lot less stress, but also an hourly position. I was about 6 months into the job when I was looking at my hours for the week. I was expecting to be into overtime if I stayed until 5. I was planning to ask if I could leave whenever I hit 40 hours since it would be before 5. I realized my hours for the week were going to be short, even if I worked until 5. After calculating the time I worked each day and comparing it to the payroll software, I talked to my boss and was told that the time clock rounded to the nearest 15 minutes. I was upset. This was never explained to me when I started. Based on how things went when I started, it wasn't surprising. For those that don't know how this works, if you clock in between 7:53 and 8:07, the time clock rounds this to 8 o'clock. If you clock in between 8:08 and 8:22, the time clock records this as 8:15. When I did the calculations, there is a potential to abuse this to swing your hours worked by 2.5 hours every week, meaning I could work 37.5 hours and get paid for 40, or I could work 40 hours and get paid for 37.5. I looked up federal labor laws, and this was absolutely legal. Fine. From then on, I never clocked out in the 7 minutes past every 15-minute increment. I'd leave for lunch at about 11:53 every day and get back at 1:07. Time clock records an hour. Get to work at 8:07, leave at 4:52. If the time clock said 4:53, I'd go back and work until 5:08. I wouldn't have done this if I had been informed up front. Obviously, I couldn't completely adhere to this schedule, but I tried my hardest. So the best example of my abuse of the system was that I lived about 5 minutes from work. Occasionally, my kids would lock themselves out of the house. They got home around 3 p.m. The first time I asked my boss if I could go let them in, which seems stupid that I would need to ask, she says to me as I'm walking away, "Make sure to clock out." I think it was meant as a joke, but obviously I was going to clock out. I'm hourly. It just rubbed me the wrong way. So I got to the time clock, clocked out at 3:08, drove home, let my kids in, drove back, and clocked back in at 3:20. Time clock sees a 3:15 clock out and a 3:15 clock in. If she hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have rushed home or back, and I would have had to make up that time. If how the time clock worked had been explained to me when I started, I wouldn't have abused it. I got sued by an entitled mom. We've got me, we've got the entitled passenger, we've got entitled mom, we've got other driver, my awesome lawyer for my car insurance, and other passenger's lawyer. So back when I was 16, it was a month or so after getting my license. I was leaving school and in traffic, just the very slow, move a car length at a time on a street not designed to be that busy, 15 miles per hour tops. I dropped something and stupidly glanced down for a second, and in the process, my foot lifted off the brake some. Bump. Crap. I could see that I hit the car in front of me. I got out, the other driver and his passenger got out. Nothing looked bad, save for a 1-inch crack in the top of my bumper. We agreed to pull ahead into a parking lot. From there, we called to get a police report. Thankfully, other driver wanted to. It was non-injury and nothing serious, so the police asked us to all drive to the station. We did and filled out a quick report of the incident. All were friendly, and other driver and seemingly entitled passenger were friendly, and no hard feelings. Other driver's car was assessed for no damage, and mine had no internal damage, so I glued the crack. Other driver and I even had a class together, and he was friendly with me, said he had a stiff muscle in his neck, but nothing bad and was totally cool. Entitled passenger and I did not have any classes and didn't interact much, but would pass in the hall and no out of the ordinary interactions. I did not think much about it after that and was just more careful while driving. Lesson learned, luckily, at the minimal cost other than a higher insurance rate for a while. Fast forward 5.5 years. I get a call from my insurance saying that entitled passenger and entitled mom were trying to sue me for damages and injuries. They were awesome about it and already had an in-house lawyer working on my case. I met with her and went over my story and details. She told me the case looked bogus and stupid and that there was little chance of this going anywhere. We did have to do a dissertation. They were suing me for injuries incurred in the accident and for all the physical and massage therapy she had treated him for over the past 5 years. Something like $200,000 worth they were claiming. I sat in the lobby of the other lawyer's office with Awesome Lawyer and went over how it would go, then went up to start. We were in a large conference room, Awesome Lawyer and me on one side of the table, a court reporter on an end, and other lawyer on the other side. Entitled Parent had not arrived yet, so we all just chatted. Turns out I was going to the school other lawyer attended, and we had a nice chat. When Entitled Passenger walked in, me, Awesome Lawyer, and other lawyer were all laughing together, and he had such an annoyed look on his face. Note, I dressed very professional in a suit. He wore jeans and an old shirt. We were sworn in legally before we began. It started with Awesome Lawyer asking entitled passenger questions about the situation and details, which he recalled very few of, and it had a lot of, "I think," "I don't remember," and "possibly." He talked about how much his injuries hurt him getting jobs, and how great his mom was for allowing him to be under her medical treatment. It was all very vague, and a lot came up about how his mom didn't have good records of his treatment, and how she was not even a licensed therapist. Awesome Lawyer also asked him about how the medical record from his visit the day after the accident showed 0 injuries from it, and how the police statement he made and signed did not match what he was describing now. He did not have a good answer. After that, Other Lawyer asked me questions, and I was able to recall details of the day and the scenario, all of which were confirmable by the police report and our statements from that day. After we left, Awesome Lawyer told me she had a hard time not laughing about how crappy his case was, and why the heck Other Lawyer would even bother to take it. I got a call a few days later that they settled outside of court for about $2,000, cheaper than going to court, and from what I was told, essentially just covered the entitled passenger's lawyer fees. Not super dramatic, but at the time, it was an intense feeling because I was getting sued, even if it was absurd. I learned a lot from it about keeping good records of things, and that car insurance covered a lawyer. Edit. I forgot to mention that I was told the statute of limitations on that kind of thing was 6 years, so this came up right before it was up, conveniently. I looked up the court records just to see things. He has had this sort of lawsuit, suing somebody for an incident years later, with 2 other people, and from what I can find in public records online, all ended similar to mine and around the same time. The same lawyer too, for him. Also, he had to go to court/pay a lawyer to go to court to get the points dropped for traffic tickets. Karen damages my mom's car and blames my mom. Her cop boyfriend covers it up and ruins both of their reputations. For some background, I live in a predominantly white suburb town in New Jersey, and my family is Asian. Although the town is alright for the most part, it is not really a secret that some of the townspeople discriminate. One of our neighbors, let's call him Anthony, is a retired police captain from another town, but he is friends with my town's police chief. My mother is a first-generation immigrant, and although she's fluent in English, she still has a pretty thick Asian accent. A couple of years ago, my mom went to visit one of her friends on the other side of town. My mom had parallel parked directly in front of her friend's house, which is at the bottom of a small hill. As she was leaving, a woman driving a Jeep Wrangler with her kids was driving down the small hill, but she was still a decent distance back, so my mom pulled out of her spot. The road they were on was really wide, with enough space to fit 5 cars next to one another, and about 40 feet ahead was a stop sign. My mom at this point was already in the middle of the road, fully out of the parking spot, and had gotten about 10 feet when the woman driving the Jeep suddenly came up from behind my mom's car and cut directly in front of her, crossing a double yellow line to do so. Because of the angle she cut my mom off at, the Jeep's rear wheel ended up ripping off my mom's front bumper. My mom naturally immediately stopped, and the woman got out of her car after straightening it out on the road. As soon as she stepped out of her car, this woman, we'll call her Karen, immediately starts yelling at my mom at the top of her lungs. Karen told my mom to call the police, but my mom told her that her phone had died. My mom's friend and her son, as well as the neighbor, came out of the house after hearing the commotion to see what had happened. The neighbor, an elderly man, asked what happened, and Karen yelled,
Are you blind? An accident happened. Go call the police. I need to call my boyfriend.
The son had taken a law class in college, so he offered to take a bunch of pictures of the scene of the accident and send them to my mom later. This becomes super important later. The neighbor calls the police, but Karen's boyfriend arrives at the scene first. When the cop, let's call him Kenny, finally arrives, he asked my mom what happened. Just as my mom had started saying her side of the story, the cop says, "Wait just a minute," and walks over to the boyfriend. As it turns out, the boyfriend, we'll call him Sam, was a cop in the town who was pretty popular with the kids in the middle schools since he would occasionally visit to talk to them about things like DARE and other things in assemblies. Sam was off duty at the time, so he was able to come over when Karen called him. As soon as Kenny saw his bud Sam, he immediately went to go talk with him rather than with my mom or with Karen. They discussed for a little while and afterwards sent everyone on their way. My mom tried to talk to Kenny before he left, but Kenny just brushed it off and said he got the details he needed and that my mom would be able to get the police report in about a week or two. When my mom receives the police report, she saw that it said that she pulled out without using her blinkers suddenly and hit Karen's car. On top of that, Karen was expecting my mom's insurance to pay for the damage done to her rear wheel. My mom went to my neighbor Anthony to ask what she could do about the report since it was clearly wrong. Anthony was furious and told her that she should go to the police station and ask to see the chief, and if they ask why she needs to see him, she should tell them that it's because she wants to file an internal complaint. That day, my mom takes the photographs sent to her by the son and goes to the police station and asks the person working the front desk to see the chief. The cop says that she could not just walk in and ask for the chief, so my mom responds, "Okay, so where should I go to file an internal complaint?" And the cop immediately straightens up and says, "Right here, come with me." He leads her into the back. The deputy chief steps into the room and started recording the conversation. Since the chief was out, my mom presented all of the evidence to him instead. After presenting the evidence to show that it was in fact Karen that hit her instead of the other way around, my mom also says that she would like to file a corruption complaint against both Kenny and Sam. Kenny clearly did not do his job properly since he did not properly ask the actual people involved in the accident and did not even note the fact that there were 2 passengers in Karen's car in the report. Even Karen later admitted to an investigator that Kenny never once spoke to her. My mom even threw in the race card for good measure, saying maybe Kenny wouldn't listen to her and brushed her off because of her thick Asian accent. Sam, meanwhile, had interfered with the investigation despite not being at the scene of the crime during the time of the accident. The deputy chief says he will start an internal investigation and will see if anything needs to be done. Meanwhile, my mom also filed a claim to her insurance and presented the evidence to them too. And her insurance decides since the accident, in their eyes, was clearly not her fault, they weren't going to pay Karen a penny and that they would contact Karen's insurance to pay my mom instead. A lot of internal bureaucratic investigational BS happens, including interviews with Karen, my mom's friend, and the friend's neighbor. About a month passed, and an officer comes to our house to tell my mom that Kenny had been punished, but there was not enough evidence to punish Sam, and he just wanted to know if there were any other concerns she had. Since Karen seemingly had not done anything to further warrant any action and the damage to her car was paid for, my mom said that there was nothing else. This is the fun part. 3 days after the officer came to our door, a letter came in the mail for a court hearing. Turns out, Karen decided to file 3 tickets about my mom just 1 day before the statute of limitations. Apparently in New Jersey, citizens are allowed to file complaints about other citizens breaking the law, a thing that our family had never heard of before until this happened. And because of how late she filed these complaints, by the time we received them in the mail, we could not even counter-complain, and the only options were to pay the fine or to go to court. We assumed that Karen learned about being able to file a complaint from Sam, and that the only reason she was willing to go this far is because she heard my mom had a super thick Asian accent and assumed that my mom wouldn't know what to do about the tickets and would just pay up. What she didn't count on was the fact that my mom is actually really aggressive with an absolutely massive network of people that she knows. Within a day, my mom hired a lawyer to fight the case, and they immediately asked to change the court from the small court in our town to one of the large courts a couple of towns away. The logic was that if she fought the case in our town, my mom would be at a disadvantage since her case was essentially going against our town's beloved police force, but by putting it in a different town, the playing field would be even. Additionally, while my mom worked from home in her own business, Karen had a full-time job in town, so going to court in a different town would be a huge pain in the butt for her. The lawyer had prepared a huge amount of evidence against Karen, so there was no way she was actually going to win the case no matter what. Come the court date, Karen never showed up, so the case was thrown out. That was a pretty nice win, but what came after was even better. Since my mother and sister have a lot of friends in town, the story of Karen and Sam doing this shady BS got out really fast. Soon, half the town had heard about it, and suddenly Karen and Sam went from 2 favorites in the town because of Sam's reputation to 2 of the most underhanded and nasty people. Sam stopped getting invited to school assemblies, and Karen was ostracized in her kid's school's PTA. Anthony also ended up talking to the police chief in private, and we later found out that although Sam was not officially punished, he was severely reprimanded by the chief. Giving an employee the new truck as he asked for. Hello, people of Reddit. My friend who works in construction told me this story, and I thought that I'd share it as it's super funny. So for your information, this happened in 2015. When the company had ordered 20 new fleet trucks, they were going good for everyone, except for this guy. We'll call Bert. He somehow kept damaging the newer trucks. When he damaged his second truck, the supervisor kept complying and giving him a new truck as he asked for. Meet everyone. We've got Bert, we've got the supervisor, and the mechanic. So to get into it, my friend tells me that at the company he works for, everyone is loaned a company truck. They are responsible for making sure that the truck is okay and that everything is going smoothly. When repairs are needed, you take it to the company mechanic, and they take care of things. The supervisor handed everyone a key to their new truck, and it went like this. Supervisor: Hey everybody, I'm sure as you saw today, our new trucks came in, so everybody line up and get a key to your truck. Everyone gets their key and goes forward with their work week. Then Bert comes to the mechanic with his truck, and he said, "It's feeling sluggish." Mechanic said to Bert 25 minutes later, "Well, figured what is wrong with your truck?" Bert: "What's going on?" Mechanic: "Apparently you damaged the drive shaft." "Oh wow, I wonder how that happened." Now, mechanic in his report said that there was a lot of dirt under the bay of the truck. Since they are new, mechanic made the assumption that he likely went off-roading and damaged it. The company had 2 new spare trucks. Bert apparently came into supervisor's office and said, "I need a new truck." Supervisor: "Wait, what happened to yours?" "The drive shift is damaged." Supervisor: "Okay, well, we have another truck you can borrow until yours is fixed. Just be more careful." Bert, with an unappreciative tone, said, "Fine," and later drove off. 3 days later, a AAA flatbed delivered his loaner to the yard. He apparently snapped the front left axle and sustained some bumper damage to the truck. Supervisor is mad. Bert then comes into the office and tells supervisor, "I need a new truck." Supervisor: "Yeah, I see," pointing to the flatbed with the truck on it. So supervisor gives him a new truck as he asked for, a 1989 Ford F-150. Bert: "This truck isn't new." Supervisor: "Yeah, it's new to you. Why can't I have a newer one?" Supervisor: "Well, you've damaged your first 2. You are an extreme liability for us right now. Just be happy that we're giving you something." Bert, looking dissatisfied, says, "Fine," and drives away. 5 days later, the clutch was shot on the '89 pickup, and the thing is, the clutch on the truck was fine. It was inspected before it was given to Bert. So now mechanic and supervisor were suspicious. Bert then came to supervisor's office and said, "I need a new truck." Supervisor: "Yeah, I heard." Bert walks over to the last new truck on the lot. Then supervisor says, "Follow me to the back lot." Bert follows. Supervisor then proceeds to take a tarp off of a 1977 Ford F-150. The supervisor says to Bert, "Here is your new truck." Bert looked disgusted, but he had to take it because supervisor wouldn't let him have one of the new trucks until this was fixed, and paid to fix the clutch on the 1989 truck. Needless to say, Bert never broke his truck again. As the yard had an even older 1969 Ford, Bert probably realized that if he didn't shape up his driving, that he would once again get a new truck. Also, Bert had a lot of experience in construction, so that is one of the reasons why he wasn't fired until 2 years later. Crazy lady demands I let her brat pet my dog. My dog Bones is a rescue and has survived multiple dog attacks before I adopted him. As a result, he dislikes other dogs and will nip at them if they get too close. So he wears a bright purple muzzle and is decked nose to tail in bright signs that all say something along the lines of "No dogs" or "I need space." Story time. I live in a small city in the Northeast US where neighbors rarely talk to each other, and I rarely have any issues with other people about Bones. It was my day off, so I figured it would be nice to get out of the house and go to the park to train. We get to the park and, it being at the end of times and all, everyone and their mother is out. It's fine. I find a secluded corner of grass, lay down Bones' mat, and start working. We're having fun, and no one has bothered us up to this point. I'm laughing, and Bones is jumping up and down for treats, when suddenly a little voice screams, "Doggy!" Bones loves kids, but he's also very excited and might jump on them, so I immediately stop and tuck him away so I can hold him in place and start looking around for the kid. A little kid clutching the leash of a little poof of a dog is waddling towards us as fast as their legs can take them. No parents in sight, and I'm panicking. Wait, wait, I cry, waving one of my hands in front of us. Stop! Where are your parents? This itty-bitty kid only sort of speaks and stops a few feet away from me, babbling and pointing in random directions. From between my knees, Bones lets out a booming bark and strains forward. The little kid isn't fazed, but the dog with her launches its tiny self at us, barking up a storm. Bones also loses his mind, barking back. Now the girl is crying, the dogs are screaming at each other, and still no parents anywhere to be seen. Hey, hello, somebody help, please. I start to shout because I don't know what else to do. People are staring at us, nobody is helping. I finally wrestle Bones to the ground and kneel over to him, when finally a woman shows up and scoops up the girl into her arms, dropping the leash in the process. Little dog bounds over, barking and trying to nip at Bones' nose. I'm so busy trying to get little dog away from us while also holding Bones down that I don't pay any attention to the mom and her daughter until I hear an ahem. I glance up. Please get your dog, I practically beg. Mom reaches down and puts her baby down and scoops up little dog with one hand, the other coming to rest on her hip.
My daughter wants to pet your dog,
she says, like nothing has happened. Incredulous, I gesture helplessly at my squirming dog, and I slowly come back to standing, still holding Bones between my knees. He isn't friendly, I say, when the point doesn't seem to be clear to the mom.
No, she has dogs at home. She just wants to pet him,
Mom insists. Baby is closing in on us, and I try to get back up, but moving is difficult with a 75-pound dog in between your feet. No ma'am, I say. He isn't friendly. She cannot pet him. I'm sorry.
Oh,
says Mom, looking at him.
Is he a service dog?
Now, Bones' vest, with all of his patches, does kind of look like a service dog vest, but I think it's very clear that we are not a service team. No, I repeat, pointing at his muzzle. He is not friendly.
If he's not a service dog, then my daughter should be able to pet him. Go on, baby. Give him a pet.
Now, call me a bad owner if you will, but I gave up. Her kid was right there and already smacking Bones with her hand. I just grabbed his face and held it away from her and waited for it to be over.
See, that wasn't so bad,
Mom said, and then she leaned down with little dog still in her hands and pet my muzzled dog. No, I yelled, trying to pull back, but Bones lunged forward, paws outstretched, and punted this woman in the chest. Mom fell back, yelling. Little dog jumped away and ran at Bones. Baby is crying again. I managed to get Bones on the ground before he steps on little dog.
Oh,
cries Mom, like she's on a soap opera or something.
Oh, bad dog, bad dog.
She reaches down to, I don't know, smack Bones or something. Stop, I scream at her. I told you he isn't friendly. Please just take your dog and go. Mom kicks at the grass in front of us, grabs her daughter and her dog and stomps away. I sit on the grass, crying, trying to gather my stuff as quickly as possible and book it back home. I was so scared the entire time, waiting for the cops to stop me or something. Yes, I know, I was being dramatic, but I was really scared. A few people threw me sympathetic glances as I ran from the park. Entitled elderly lady regrets calling cashier stupid. This actually happened a while ago, but I thought the community would enjoy it. So, for some important context, I had previously worked in a grocery store whilst deciding what to go to school for. That didn't exactly feel obligated to repair things that needed it. This is important as the tills we use daily would not function how they were supposed to sometimes. The tills were normally programmed to audibly notify you with a buzz or a beep whenever an item failed to go through, followed by a visible notice on screen. A number of our tills had given up the duty of notifying us with sound. In comes this elderly lady with somewhat greasy hair and quite the stubble. She had a pretty heavy order, which wouldn't normally be a problem if our tills had did what they were supposed to. I realized while she was distracted that an item at the beginning of the transaction hadn't gone through, which meant that nothing else I had scanned after said item went in either. I cringed, dismissed the message, and tried to inconspicuously begin the order all over again, hoping she wouldn't notice. Because this happens quite frequently, and trying to explain it makes you feel like you're trying to lie your way through it, and I didn't like feeling like that. Unfortunately, she noticed.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just rescanning these items. This kind of thing happens sometimes.
What kind of thing? Overcharging your customers?
I'm not overcharging you at all. See, when one item fails to go through,
You already scanned those. Why are you scanning all my items twice?
each time I had attempted to explain the situation, she wouldn't understand, or give it time to understand for that matter, and took a step back into accusing me that I was double charging her for items. I'm not, ma'am. I attempted to show her the screen, but apparently proof doesn't matter much when you've already committed to a negative behavior, and now you have to be right.
How ridiculous. This is pathetic.
She went on.
I can't believe this crap. Nobody knows how to do anything these days.
Before this altercation, she asked, or more likely demanded, 2 cartons of cigarettes, which, of course, we were out of up front, which meant I had to wait for someone to bring them up from the back. I'd like to point out that I never do well with pressure or hostility, so I'm very uncomfortable waiting with this lady, instead of continuing the order so I could send her on our way. I get the cartons, and she's acting like I have no idea what I'm doing, and verbally makes me feel like I'm useless and incapable. All while I am surprisingly acting like everything is okay, like she's not making me feel like a terrible employee, and even smaller of a person, when actually I was scared and upset. I didn't want it to get any worse than it was. It was at this brilliant moment that she turned to the person behind her and confidently uttered,
Isn't she just stupid?
The person behind her was my mother, here to pick me up at the end of my shift. My jaw physically dropped, and my expression morphed into an unavoidable gaping smirk. Good things come to those who wait, I guess. My mother looked at her, and keeping her cool, she said, Well, I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose, and considering how I gave birth to her 20 years ago, no, I don't think she's stupid. This lady, you could see the alert in her eyes. She didn't say another word during the transaction and practically flew from the store after that. I think the funny part was, I saw my mom there previously, and I was trying to hint to her that something was wrong. She knows my body language, and this old gal did it for me. I guess it serves as a lesson not to bring other people into care and drama when you have no idea who they are. Entitled Mom says I don't need a car, even though I have to work, then tries to take it. I'm sorry if this seems like a long rant, but I'm so furious right now. I need to get this off my chest. A little backstory. Right now, I am a student in college pursuing a degree in child development psychotherapy. This semester, I got an internship at a local mental hospital so I could get some experience and make it easier for me to get into grad school later on. The hospital I work at isn't just a facility for short-term patients though. Some of the people who live there are permanent residents, ranging in age from 6 to 78, for various reasons, but I won't name specifics out of respect for our residents' privacy. Basically, our goal is to do everything possible to help people recover from a mental illness/episode and to provide a comfortable quality of life for our permanent residents. Needless to say, I deeply enjoyed my internship there. For now, all internships with the hospital were stopped until further notice, so I stopped going for a good 3 weeks and tried to focus on school. Then one of my old bosses called me, in tears, telling me how desperate they are for help right now. Once she had finished telling me about the situation, I immediately begged her to put me back on the next week's schedule. She agreed, and I've been working there ever since. Now, I don't want to come across as arrogant or pretending to be a martyr or anything like that. In all honesty, I think I am very underqualified compared to someone with actual medical experience/training. But I know that these people at this hospital are dependent on us for care, support, love, and help. And I refuse to just sit by and watch bad things happen to these people. Simple as that. Sorry, long backstory. On to the actual story. Ever since I started working at the hospital, my hours have been absolutely insane. There have been times where I spent 48 to 50 hours straight at the building. I eat when I can. I sleep at 3-hour intervals, so I can get up in the middle of the night and check on our residents and patients. I do my virtual lectures and homework while organizing patient files. As awful and maybe selfish as this sounds, I do try to get on my Switch around midnight and take care of my Animal Crossing town. I'm weak. Basically, I'm lucky if I'm able to spend 30 hours at my home. That's where our entitled mother comes into the picture. If you have read the edit on my last post, yes, it is the same woman. You already know this, but if you didn't, basically she got arrested and subsequently lost custody of her son. Ever since, she has been absolutely desperate to get custody of him again. So she has been scrambling between family members, trying to acquire things that make her look like a responsible parent. baby gates, child safety locks, a new fridge, a new bed, countless new toys. I could go on and on. However, she went to her dad, my stepdad, for the most expensive thing she needed, a car. My stepdad refused because he was recently laid off because of what's going on, and we can't really afford to be buying something so expensive and not even be able to use it. I've been giving a portion of my paychecks to my parents to help ease the burden. It's not much in the grand scheme of things, but it's enough. I don't think we're in trouble financially, but if worst comes to worst, I would start giving 100% of my paycheck to them. After this conversation, Entitled Mom drove to our house. Yes, she drove. She had a car, and tried to plead her case with my stepdad again. I was sleeping in my room at this point, but my stepdad told me about the conversation, and it basically went like this. Entitled Mom.
Dad, please, I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't important.
Stepdad. You already have a car though.
Yeah, but it's not an awesome car. I need one with heated seats and built-in GPS.
Stepdad. I don't think a judge would really care what kind of car you have, as long as it's a car.
You are so selfish. I need this so I can get my son back, and you aren't even willing to help. How could you let my baby be taken away without helping me get him back? Don't you think your grandson deserves something nice after what he's been through?
Stepdad, I can't afford it. I'm sorry. Even if I wanted to, I can't do anything.
Then let me have OP's car.
Stepdad, OP needs that car to go to work. She's an essential worker.
That's debatable. Making sure some psycho doesn't hurt themselves isn't really essential. I bet she doesn't even do anything anyways. She probably is just lying about her job.
Stepdad, the answer is no. Get out. Figure this out yourself. I'm not helping you. I thought the situation was over after that conversation. Nope. I don't know how she did it, but Entitled Mom got my work's address and went there while I was working. I was on hour 5 of an 18-hour shift when my boss took me aside and told me that my car had been vandalized and she had called the police. When I went to look outside, I saw Entitled Mom handcuffed and arguing with a police officer in front of my car. Apparently, she had tried to steal my car by breaking the driver's side window and attempting to hotwire my car. When she couldn't hotwire my car, she got out, broke one of my taillights, and keyed a word that I morally refused to even type on my driver's side door. As pathetic as this sounds, I started sobbing as soon as I saw the damage. Maybe it was the lack of sleep catching up to me. Maybe it was the shock. All I know is that I was gross crying in front of my boss, Entitled Mom, and the police. Entitled Mom was yelling things at me, but I couldn't tell you what they were if I tried. I just went into autopilot. I gave my statement to police, confirmed that I wanted to press charges, called a tow for my poor car, and took an Uber home. I honestly hope that was the end of her crap for at least a while, because I don't think I can handle any more of her. Everything right now. I fixed my car as much as I could on my budget. I had an extra taillight, so I put it in. I put a trash bag over the broken window, and I used duct tape to cover up the word she keyed into the door. Sure, it looks super ugly, but it still runs. I'm just thankful that she didn't cut anything important. The ironic thing is, my stepdad's family is talking about pooling money together so they can get me a new car. When my stepdad asked me if I had any preferences, I told him I wanted heated seats and a built-in GPS. Oh, sweet karma. Bail hasn't been set yet on Entitled Mom, but all I know is that after this, she is not getting her son back. I'm happy for that though. That boy deserves so much more than she could give, and maybe now he will get it. Thanks for listening to my rant, you guys. Stay safe out there. Entitled cousin tries to take everything I have. My car, my money, my boyfriend, and my entitled aunt is supporting her. Yup, you heard that right. My entitled cousin, who we will call Faith, tried to take away everything I ever had. And she loves my entitled aunt. Like, adores her so much that Faith would do anything to please her. She was very special, to say the least. My aunt adopted a girl who grew up to literally be like the mini version of my aunt. She was rude, mean, extremely demanding, and her favorite line was, "You can't hurt me, we are family." I never really paid attention to her, nor liked her at all. She was a spoiled brat. My cousin, I dubbed the Lucas, ignored her. Lucas was never neglected though, because our grandma was the one taking care of him the most, while our aunt, Brittany, because I hate that name, no offense to all Brittany's out there, doted and adored her. Faith was ruined by Aunt Brittany, And now there's no turning back. I made a story about my entitled aunt who treats me like a slave in another story. Not gonna lie, I wrote it badly. I'm surprised it got so much support. Like, thank you guys. Real quick to clarify, my entitled aunt is Aunt Brittany. My entitled cousin is Faith. My best cousin ever is Lucas. And I'll go ahead and go by my username, CoolSharp, and my boyfriend will be called Thomas for this story. Let's begin. I was 17 at the time and it was Christmas. I worked 2 part-time jobs in order to make my own money and to be able to afford all the gifts I got for my family and boyfriend. We were all at my aunt's place for this Christmas. Some days were good and other days were bad, but it all got worse when my aunt adopted Faith. She hated me with a burning passion. First day I met her, I was cuddling with my boyfriend on the couch and her. My aunt, my grandmother, and Lucas all came over for Thanksgiving about 2 years ago. I stood up and greeted her all nicely, of course, saying, "Hello, I'm CoolSharp. You must be my new cousin." I tried to shake her hand. She ignored me and glared at me. She just told me to not wear those disgusting rags and walked off. Now, Aunt Brittany spoiled Faith with literally everything. She got her first phone at 6, nearly every Barbie doll, expensive clothes, got her first credit card at the age of 10, and she didn't have to break a sweat. She's younger than I was, only by a year, but she tries to act so high up. Christmas was the best day. What better day than to spend time with your loved ones, excluding Faith and Aunt Brittany, and your own boyfriend? I pulled up into her driveway, my mother beside me in the passenger seat, and my father and boyfriend in the back seats of the car. I hopped out and grabbed the honey roasted ham and locked up as everyone shuffled their way into the house. Grandma had her arms wide open and Lucas was bugging me to hurry up. As I tried to catch up and not drop the ham, a high-pitched ahem caught my attention. This is the conversation that followed. Me. "Oh, hey Faith." Faith, eyeing me up and down multiple times.
What are you doing in those rags?
Me. Rags? Oh, you mean my new clothes. I tried to walk into the house because it was quite chilly, but she stopped me. Faith.
Listen, CoolSharp. My aunt told me that since we are cousins, I get to have what you get.
Me, dumbfounded. What? She's joking, right? Faith, now annoyed.
Well, duh. We are both girls, and out of us, I am probably the best looking one, so we should share. I can even give you tips on how you dress.
I shuffled past her, jumping into the house because it was freezing. I gave the ham to my father and took off my jacket, hat, gloves, and boots. I hung up my car keys and went into the living room. A few hours passed. I, my boyfriend, and my family all sat down together, talking and chatting and just enjoying the time, until I hear a sudden screech coming from outside. I hopped up and sprinted, pushing the screen door, and I saw my aunt smugly watching as my cousin, Faith, tried to drive my car. I hopped out, not caring about the cold, and stormed up to my aunt. Me. "What do you think you're doing?" I snapped at her, trying not to fume. Brittany, innocently talking.
Oh, well, Faith wanted to try and drive, so I told her to get your car keys and she can drive your car.
Me, annoyed. "I never gave her permission. Now tell her to get out." Brittany.
Honey,
I hate when she tries to act all sweet to me.
you should share your stuff with her. It's just her by herself with her brother Lucas.
I ignored her and stormed up to Faith. She drove off the driveway and into the snowy sidewalks and got my car stuck. I told her to get out of my car or else. She got out, looking smug as ever, and threw the keys at me. Faith.
I didn't even like your trash car anyways.
And storms off, complaining to Brittany that I wasn't being nice and that I was so rude to her. I huffed and called out for some help. Me and my family got my car unstuck, luckily, but what was beginning to upset me was now she tried going after my boyfriend. She was standing close to him, laughing and smiling, playfully hitting him. Once she saw me, he got away from Faith and went straight towards me. I told Thomas to stay inside, and I confronted Faith. Me, visibly angry. "What the heck do you think you're doing?" Faith.
Oh, why, I was talking to Thomas. He's so sweet, and I
stopped her, beyond angry. I'm very protective over my boyfriend, and I get jealous easily. Me. "Don't talk to him. Don't try and touch him. Don't stand near him. Got it?" I was mad. Faith, giving me a smug look.
And what are you going to do about it, Cool Sharp? Why did Thomas even choose you? You are a pig compared to me.
Me, desperately trying not to scream. At least I don't squeal like one when I don't get my way, and I stormed away. Throughout my stay, over and over, Faith tried being and getting close to my boyfriend, and multiple times she took my car without permission and drove it around. It was so incredibly frustrating. I was going to go and get a few more presents in stores. I grabbed my car keys and then looked into my wallet to try and see how much cash I saved up. It's empty. My wallet had no cash in it. Confused, I checked my pockets, my jacket pants, and the inside of my bag, but still, no money. I asked my parents what happened to my money in my wallet. They had no idea. I told them I somehow can't find my $200. A couple hours later, and my aunt and cousin walked in, holding bags of new clothes. I asked them, when did they get this? When did they go out? And it was right around the time I was trying to go out and get the rest of the gifts. Faith was looking at me snooty. Her nose pointed at the air and she was grinning. Me, angry. Do you know what happened to my money? Faith.
No, Cool Sharp, but I did find $200, and it was so lucky of me. I decided to take my mother out for some shopping and look at all the wonder.
I cut her off, starting to feel my blood boil. Where was this $200 found? I was gritting my teeth.
Why, I found it in a bag. I don't know whose it was, but it was sure a lucky find.
As she made her way upstairs, I went after her, but my boyfriend stopped me. Thomas, let it go. She's trying to get you to do something to her. He grabbed both my shoulders as I squirmed, wanting to fly up the stairs and literally sock my cousin in the face. Me, slightly yelling, I saved up that much money so I can buy the rest of the gifts. She went through my bag and took my money, and my aunt didn't even say a word. I was shaking with how selfish and entitled she is. Just because she is getting everything from her mom, she ain't getting jack from me. Thomas hugged me and told me to relax, that it'll be okay, and that I shouldn't be so upset. But oh, it got far, far worse. Ever since Faith took my cash, she's been deliberately trying to get me to give her everything. And when she doesn't get her way, she screams for her mother, saying,
Cool Sharp isn't letting me have this.
Or,
Mom, she isn't sharing her car with me.
Then my parents would have to get involved and practically drag my aunt back to wherever she came from before Faith summoned for her again. That Christmas week was the worst, and I still remember it. I had an entire headache the entire time. I bit my tongue every time Faith asked me for something she wanted. On the last day of that week, my parents and boyfriend all scurried into the car. I could tell they all hated the tension between me, my cousin, and aunt. I was the last one saying bye to my grandma. She was the sweetest thing during this time I was there. And Lucas, who instead of a cousin, I'd like to call a brother. He was there for me too. I made my way out before my aunt tapped my shoulder. Brittany.
Aren't you going to say bye to me and your cousin?
Faith.
How rude are you? God, I'm so glad I'm not you.
Me, just wanting to leave. Okay. And I walked away. I heard them spit rude things about me, saying how Thomas won't stay with me, how ugly and fat I am. You know, the usual girl bullying type of thing. I was sitting in the back of the car with Thomas as my dad was the one driving this time. As we pulled away, I saw both Faith and Aunt Brittany glaring at me. That's when I rolled down the window and flipped them the bird, and we all drove on home. Have you ever had a cousin that you just couldn't stand? Or how about an aunt or an uncle? Please let me know. Entitled Mom has no idea how a VIN number works. This happened about 5 years ago, but I remember it fairly well. This mom was an interesting combination of entitled and paranoid. We've got entitled mom, we've got my coworker, and we've got the nice kid. I used to work at an oil change service station part-time while I was finishing up my last year of college. It was really easy work. You don't really even have to know anything about cars other than the fundamental basics of what's under the hood, which was great for me because I didn't know crap about cars at the time. I didn't even change the oil. I just checked fluids under the hood and air filters and tire pressure. One Saturday morning, my coworker, we'll call him T, and I were just kind of sitting around as it was pretty slow when a car pulled. Finally, something to do. We pulled the car in, and behind the wheel is entitled Mom, with nice kid sitting in the back seat. This woman looked a bit old to be the mom of the kid, who looked like she was about 7 or so it could have been her grandkid possibly. The woman looked like she was in her 50s or so and had kind of hippie-ish looking clothes, jewelry, and dash decor. Nice kid is just sitting in the back seat, quietly reading a book. I stand at the terminal next to the car, smile at her, and go into customer service mode. Me. Good morning, ma'am. What can we do for you today? Entitled Mom.
Just a regular oil change, that's all.
Me. Certainly. Just pop your hood for me and we'll get started. Coworker starts looking under the hood while I pick up my scanner attached to the terminal to scan her vehicle identification number. For those of you who don't know, a VIN is basically like a fingerprint for a car that gives all the necessary information that anybody working with the car would need to know. Year, make, model, unique features, specs, parts, etc. The VIN wasn't on the dash, so it's most likely inside the door. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am. Would you mind opening your door for me so I can scan your VIN number? Entitled Mom looks at me dumbfounded, as though I asked for a kidney.
Excuse me?
Your VIN number, ma'am. I need to scan it, please. I believe it's inside your door.
Why on earth would you need to do that?
Well, we need to scan your car into the system, so we know what we need to service your car.
My car takes 5W30. That's all you need to know.
Well, ma'am, we also need it for all the other necessary information to service the car. And besides, the system won't allow us to do the work without scanning the VIN.
Well, what if somebody doesn't want to give you their VIN number?
Coworker is looking at me from under the hood with an "Is this jerk serious?" look on his face, and I myself am starting to get confused and kind of irritated by this lady's unwillingness to cooperate. Thinking maybe she misheard me or something, I say, "Ma'am, you do know I said VIN number, not PIN number, right?" Big mistake. Entitled Mom.
I know very well what you said. Don't get smart with me.
Me. I'm sorry, ma'am. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just thought perhaps you misheard me. Entitled Mom, now in Karen mode.
I do not feel comfortable giving you my VIN number, and frankly, it's bad customer service to coerce me into giving it to you. You're obviously new to customer service, so perhaps this is a chance for you to learn. Now, if you would please simply change my oil, and I'll be on my way, and I won't say anything to your manager.
Me. Ma'am, we cannot work on your car without the VIN number.
I told you, I'm not giving it to you.
Nice kid. Mama? She said it with a long A at the end, kind of like a grandma nickname, so I think Nice Kid was her granddaughter. The man said he needs the number thing.
Quiet, Nice Kid. What did I say about interrupting grown-ups?
Coworker emerges from under the hood, stifling his laughter while making eye contact with me, which makes me have to stifle laugh. Me. Ma'am, I promise you. Entitled Mom interrupts.
I do not want my private information being compromised. My VIN number is linked to my address and other personal information, and I do not feel comfortable giving that to anybody at all.
Coworker, who is still stifling his laughter. Ma'am, I assure you, your VIN is perfectly safe with us. We just need it to work on your car, that's all. Entitled Mom.
But what if somebody hacks into your system? I'll be compromised.
Coworker and I shoot confused looks at each other and can't hold back our laughter anymore.
Why are you laughing?
Me. Why would anybody want to hack our system?
That's not the point. The point is, I don't want anyone having my private information. That's my right as an American.
Coworker, still laughing. Ma'am, you do realize that the place you bought your car from, your insurance company, and any auto shop that has worked on your car has the VIN, right? And probably quite a few other places.
No, they don't. I didn't give them permission.
Coworker and I now bent over laughing at this point, making Entitled Mom even madder. Me. I 100% guarantee you they do.
Are you going to change my oil or not? I don't have time for this.
Me. I told you, I can't without the VIN number.
Fine, I'm taking my business elsewhere. I hope you know you lost a customer today, and I will be contacting corporate.
That's fine, ma'am, but I guarantee wherever you go, they're going to need your VIN number.
Just guide me out.
Coworker guides her out of the garage and she squeals off. Coworker and I start laughing hysterically as he points to our smiley face sign at the exit door that says, "Honk if you received great customer service," and says, "Aw, we didn't get our honk. Wonder where we went wrong." Next we've got Just Fix It. I was in the military, and until re-enlistment I was a mechanic. Not a very good one, but I could change parts with the best of them. This happened over 20 years ago. I did clean up the language quite a bit, but I think you will enjoy it. Our platoon mostly had good leaders, But we did have one jerk staff sergeant who was the absolute worst. When he arrived, we already had a motor sergeant and a platoon sergeant, both of whom outranked him. So he was assigned the job of managing our vehicle inspections. There were daily, weekly, monthly, etc. inspections that had to be performed. Not a difficult job, but one they assigned him to get him out of the offices since they didn't have anything else to do and nobody really liked him. Every Monday, the vehicle operators from the other platoons would come to the motor pool to do the weekly inspection. The mechanics were assigned a set of vehicles to cover. We would usually work the repairs that could be done immediately, like replacing lights or tightening loose bolts. Then, during the week, we would make all of the other repairs, and when we were done, typically Friday, we would sit down to order all the parts that we didn't have in supply. I was working when one of the operators placed his inspection sheet on the clipboard and left. When I looked at the paperwork, I noticed that his sheet listed a needed repair that was considered a deadline deficiency, a repair that must be performed prior to operating the vehicle per regulations. I informed the motor sergeant, and he said that particular repair wasn't critical and nobody was really certain why it was considered to be a deadline. He also said that he would notify the platoon using it and would ask them to bring it back when it was convenient. Usually if a deadline vehicle was being operated, we would send the wrecker out to retrieve it. So I did my repairs on Tuesday and Wednesday, and the vehicle still wasn't back. My work was very light that particular week, and I was done with all the repairs by lunch on Wednesday, so I sat down to order my parts. In walks Jerk Sergeant. He instantly begins berating me for being lazy. He then asks if my repairs are made. I tell him that all the ones I could make are, and he asks for the paperwork, which he flips through quickly. He notices the one truck, and the conversation goes like this. Sergeant:
Is the repair complete? There's nothing written here.
Me: No, but
No buts. Go out to the lot and fix it. I don't want you doing anything else until it's done.
me: Yes, Sergeant. Our motor pool had assigned spots for each vehicle. I looked through the manual for the size bolts for the particular part, grabbed the appropriate wrenches, and headed out. I laid down in the vehicle's assigned spot, raised my wrenches, and pretended to turn them. I laid there for an hour and a half wrenching air. Operators and mechanics noticed me, but didn't say anything. Several had heard the conversation and laughed a bit. The motor sergeant was walking the lot, doing his thing, when he noticed me laying there. The look on his face was priceless. He either thought I had finally cracked, I was a bit high-strung those days, or that maybe I had heat exhaustion. So he walks over, and I could see the gears in his head spinning, and he asks after a minute of thought what I was doing. I told him I was making the repair to this vehicle, which only added to the confused look on his face. And then he asks, in a tone of voice reserved for the mentally impaired, if I was aware that the vehicle wasn't there. So I replied, I know this, Sergeant, and you know this, but Jerk Sergeant does not want to hear any buts. He only wants me out in this lot until the repair is complete. Jerk Sergeant did eventually get in trouble, just not for this. He did have several complaints that eventually got him. But the motor sergeant knew me well. We had been deployed for a year, knew the situation, and he just laughed and told me to go back to work. He also said that I should have informed him of the situation so it could be resolved in a more productive manner. I quoted something military men have been told for a long time: follow the last order given. I have quite a few stories with this guy. Entitled Parent breaks my PS4. Context: I am an 18-year-old male that had a PS4. It was 2017 and we were letting people come over for my birthday party. My mom invited 26 friends over and I invited 8 friends. Here is the cast. We've got Entitled Mom, Entitled Kid, me, Friends 1, 2, and 3. Me and my friends were taking turns playing the game My Hero One's Justice 2. We were having a good time and I kept beating my friends as Fat Gum. Here comes Entitled Kid. Hey, cool game. Can I play? Me: No, sorry. I just want to hang out with my friends right now. Maybe later. But I want to play too. I know, but I'm hanging out with my friends. Entitled Kid storms off going to find his mom. Here comes Entitled Mom.
Why can't my son play your game?
Friend 1: He's hanging out with us right now. Friends 2 and 3 nod their head. Me: I said maybe later.
No, if my son can't play your game, then I will take the console.
Me and Friend 1: What? Entitled Mom proceeds to rip the PS4 out of the TV and break the wires. Friends 2 and 3: You broke the PlayStation.
That's not breaking the console. This is.
Entitled Mom throws the console on the ground. Me: What have you done?
You wanted to know what breaking the console was like.
I cry and go get my mom. My mom kicks the mom and her kid out and makes the entitled mom give up all the money for all my games and the PS4. I have a new PS4 now. It runs like the other. That is my entitled parent story. How to scare a Karen. After a couple of weeks of not leaving my house and needing some groceries, I threw on an old baseball cap, hadn't fixed my hair for a while, and ventured to my closest Costco. Being early, the line to enter was short, and I was able to get in, grab the stuff I needed, and get in line to check out. However, the line to check out was not short. The store had established 2 lines approaching the checkout tills. An employee would direct you to the next till open when you reached the front of the store. The end of the lines, however, stretched back to the back of the store. I got in line and everyone was being very nice and keeping the prescribed distance apart, and we were behaving in a civil manner. But of course, there's always that one person who just has to try to display dominance over everyone else. This one person, in this case, was a Karen. There were only about 3 people in front of me before reaching the front, where an employee would direct us to a cashier. Karen came along, looked back towards the beginning of the line, sighed dramatically, and pushed her giant Costco cart in front of the woman before me, making her next in line. The lady in front of me pointed out to her that the line started in the back of the store. Karen ignored her completely. A couple of others in line also called out to her that the line was back there. Karen ignored them. Finally, the employee directing traffic came over and told her that she would have to move to the back of the line. Karen finally spoke.
I spend a lot of money here.
Like, we all spend a lot of money at Costco.
And I'm in a hurry. What's one more in front of them anyway? They've already waited this long. They can wait a few minutes more.
I watched this go down, and soon the employee was arguing with her, and I decided that it was time to let my crazy flag fly. I'm no shrinking violet, and I don't embarrass easily, so I thought, why not? I walked up next to the lady and just stared at her. I didn't say anything until she looked at me and said,
"Step back, you're too close."
I looked at her and loudly said,
Do you like my shoes?
Karen, bless her heart, looked a little shocked. Before she could say anything, I struck again.
I like my shoes. Do you like my shoes?
I then did what my sons tell me is my creepy laugh. Karen's eyes got a little wide, and I heard some laughs from some of the others in line. I then said,
Can I go home with you and look at your shoes?
At this, the employee once again said,
Ma'am, please go to the back of the line.
Crazy won the day, and Karen left the line without saying a word to me and headed towards the back of the line. By now, some of the others were laughing, and some looked genuinely worried about the crazy lady in line with them. I just went back to my cart and said, well, sometimes you just have to fight idiots with crazy. Everyone seemed to relax, and a couple of us chatted for the few minutes it took for us to reach the front of the line. I will admit, most of the people who were in line with me who heard the altercation were looking at me funny. But hey, it's not like they could recognize me because of the ball cap and mask. Geez, I love freaking people out. Being old has its perks. Karen says she can control my hobbies. Cast. We've got entitled mom. We've got me. We've got a nice kid. We've got entitled kid. My mom and my younger brother. This one is a long one. I love movies and have posters on the wall, movie spaceships on the ceiling, and merchandise everywhere. Sorry for the flex. I also make home movies, most of which are not exactly PG. So my mom's friend and colleague, our beloved entitled champion, comes to visit with her nice kid and her whiny entitled kid for the afternoon tea. Entitled kid goes off with younger brother and nice kid sticks with me. He asks if I had made any other home movies. I show him this 50-minute mockumentary movie, a comedy movie pretending to be a documentary, about the daily life of a crowded lodge in which I play a lot of characters. Dylan Brown, a stay-at-home dad, Reginald McFilly, a wannabe detective, Rebecca Mason, a failing movie star, and Larry Johnson, an author who plagiarizes novels. It has quite a few swears. Nice kid is laughing a lot and says it's good. Then entitled kid and younger brother come through just minding their own business and see us. Entitled kid.
What's that?
Me. It's a home movie I made.
Can I see it?
I don't know. I don't know if you should. If your mom gives you permission, you can. It has some language in it. I did not know if I should have shown him my movie. I didn't want his Karen mom to get mad at me for doing so. Entitled Kid.
Come on, it can't be that bad.
Nice Kid. Entitled Kid, he said no. If you want to watch it, go ask Entitled Mom.
Okay.
He goes off to presumably ask his entitled mom for permission to watch. Younger brother starts watching with us. A moment later, entitled mom storms in with a smug entitled kid.
Why did you say to my son that he can't watch your movie?
Me. I didn't say he couldn't. I just said he might need to get permission from you to see it.
Why can't he just watch it? It's just a movie.
It has some language in it. I skip to a bit where I know there's some language. Entitled mom looks horrified as she hears it.
How dare you show this to me and my kid? You are disgusting. What kind of idiot with no life are you that you spend your spare time making these?
I am silent. I do not take insults well, and I have a ready tongue and can't stand entitlement. I shoot Nice Kid a "this will be fun" look. I stand up and get nose to nose with entitled mom.
Me. I told you that it had language. It's your little goblin's fault for not knowing the word no, and your own fault for not listening to me when I told you.
Entitled mom recoils and counterattacks.
How dare you talk to your elders like that? I am telling you to delete that tape and never make any other movies again.
Me. You can't tell me what to do. You can't control my hobbies.
Yes, I can. You are a kid, and I am an adult, so you have to listen to me. Okay? Kids should be appropriate, and if Nice Kid were to make those vile tapes, he would be disowned. I can control your hobbies because I am an adult. Now delete those vile movies, and you will never make one again.
Me. Again. You can't tell me what to do. And this movie alone took 4 months to make. I had to script, make costumes, and buy props, filming and post-production, and hours of my time. So I will not delete this movie. It's like you've never done anything in your life, riding my mom and everyone's coattails to take partial credit and earn money, and you're just jealous that a 16-year-old can achieve more than you.
I do everything at work. Okay, you don't have to delete your movie, but Entitled Kid wants your movie camera.
Now my camera is an expensive one and cost me just about $750. But Entitled Kid looks excited about this and says the cringiest thing ever.
Yeah, then I can film videos of me playing Xbox and upload it to YouTube.
I can't help but laugh at this, and so does Nice Kid and younger brother. Entitled Kid goes red.
It's not funny. Better than your crappy movies.
Me. Oh, look, I've corrupted Entitled Kid. Yes, high five, younger brother and Nice Kid. Mission accomplished. Entitled mom looks shocked.
You have corrupted my kid with your disgusting films. Entitled Kid, Nice Kid, we're going.
And she leaves. Mom is very confused when we say Entitled Mom has left. Nice Kid texts me later that night saying that Entitled Mom lectured her the whole way home about movies being nasty and evil and that only Disney is alright. Later, me and younger brother said we were planning a sequel to that movie with a new character called Karen. Thank you for reading. I hope you enjoyed it. Guy tried to buy my service dog. A bit of backstory. I have a wonderful service dog named Simon. He's with me for psychiatric assistance and helps keep people away from me, so I don't hurt them and they don't hurt me or cause more panic when I have breakdowns, and interrupts me if I do self-destructive behavior, like scratching at my arms and legs is a mild example. I also just generally feel safer with him when I go outside. There are a few people that I'm afraid of in the apartment complex, for good reason I won't get into. And he is fairly protective of me if someone suddenly grabs me. My boyfriend and I trained this into him due to the aforementioned people. Now, my first encounter was on a trip to our mailbox. It's not super far away, and usually trips are uneventful. I had mainly brought Simon with me so he could use the bathroom. There was a man at the mailbox across the street with his son checking his mail. We'll call them Entitled Dad and Good Kid, since he was actually pretty sweet. Entitled Dad approaches me with his son.
Go on, ask.
I'm a bit startled at someone suddenly talking to me, and my anxiety goes up a lot, but I can deal with it. Ask what? I smile at them, and he gestures to his son, who's probably like 7 at the most. "Can I pet him?" Good Kid asked quietly. Now, I absolutely have no problem with people petting my dog if they ask first. He wasn't in his vest or anything to begin with, since I wasn't bringing him somewhere dogs aren't normally allowed to be. "Sure, go for it. He loves pets." I crouch down and hold Simon by his leash to assure he doesn't jump on Good Kid, as Entitled Dad seems content that I let his kid pet my dog. Entitled Dad speaks up again.
How much do you want for him?
I'm taken aback. "I'm sorry, what?"
Your dog. How much do you want for him? Good Kid really likes him, and he seems great with kids. Is he housebroken? How old is he? Is he up to date on shots?
My mind started spinning. Like, I know he didn't know he was a service dog. Again, lack of vest. But he was just trying to buy him off me because his kid liked to pet him. "I'm sorry, I need him. He's a service dog." Entitled Dad cuts me off.
I can pay you more for him then. You can just get another one.
Now, Simon is, as I said, psychiatric. I trained him myself for nearly 2 years to react to my particular triggers and tics. Not that I would ever sell my best friend, but if I did, it would take way too much time and money to train another dog for what I need him to be able to do. "I'm sorry, no." I stand up, and Simon walks back to my side, facing the two people. I guess Good Kid wasn't really listening, as he just said goodbye to my dog. But Entitled Dad wasn't done trying. He stepped closer, and I panicked. I didn't want him to grab me. I'm very small and thin. So I dropped down and did my best to fake the signs I was having a breakdown, at least physically. Simon put himself between me and Entitled Dad and Good Kid, just what he's supposed to do. Entitled Dad still reaches for me, and Simon growled quietly at him. Nothing aggressive, just a low and quiet growl telling him to stay back. When he does this, he has the tendency to tuck his ears back as a further sign of non-aggression. This set Entitled Dad off.
Your mutt tried to bite me.
He absolutely did not. I don't know how in the world a growl is an attempt to bite, but I kept myself hunkered down as Entitled Dad went on.
I'm calling the cops and animal control, and I'll have that dog euthanized.
He grabs Good Kid by the arm and drags him off to the apartment block across the street. I get up slowly, making sure Entitled Dad isn't going to come back and to make sure he isn't trying to be sneaky and see what apartment I go to. I hurry back inside, and I guess he never called either place because nobody ever showed up to talk to me or take my dog. I haven't seen or heard from Entitled Dad or Good Kid since. I know that's not like a super satisfying ending, but it was still a pretty scary run-in. Owner at print shop confuses me for a technician. Background information. Until recently, my business was still giving out wedding videos on DVD. The DVDs were labeled with custom stickers that had to be printed for each client. These had to be imported into Photoshop, positioned correctly, etc. The guys running the printers at this particular shop just never seemed able to master this skill, and usually, as soon as they finally did, they would leave or get fired, and the process would restart. By the third time this had happened, I had started teaching the printing guys how to do it, which usually meant that I just ended up doing the job myself, while they watched, and as soon as they tried doing it themselves, they'd mess it up again. As I was a regular that had been coming there for about 8 years and seemed to be the only person that could get my orders right anyways, the manager and I eventually came to a mutual agreement that when I came in, I could just go use the computer in her office and set it up myself because it would be quicker and would cost the shop much less than all the stickers they were wasting from her guys doing it wrong. This was perfect for me and went well for many months. A trip that had usually taken over an hour would now take only about 5 minutes. So one day, I had just sent my order through to the printer and I was standing by the machine waiting for it to print. When the owner walked up to me and started telling me that the printer was still getting jammed all the time. Please note, the owner and I had spoken countless times before. He usually even came out to greet me when I entered the shop. I assumed he was telling me this because he feared my order might get stuck, but I was dead wrong. To his initial explanation, I had just smiled and said, "That's good to know." He exploded on me, telling me that's not good enough and asking me what I was planning on doing about it. At this point, I thought he was accusing me of having broken his printer, and I just stood there dumbstruck. My expression changed when he mentioned how much he pays me. "Wait, what?" I asked. Suddenly, the manager came running out of her office yelling, "Boss, he doesn't work here." The owner responded with, "What?" "That's OP. He comes in here every week, almost for the last 8 years," the manager said. looking super confused about how he had forgotten who I was. As she was saying that, the actual printer technician came out of the restroom. The owner looked at him, then looked at me, looked at him again. We looked absolutely nothing alike, and then suddenly grasped that I wasn't the technician. "Well, he shouldn't be back here then," the owner said sheepishly as he returned to his office. The manager apologized profusely to me, and I just laughed it off. I guess she did get in a bit of trouble for our deal though, because the next week she told me that she couldn't allow me to do my own printing anymore, and so we had to go back to the old way of her guys doing it themselves and getting it wrong on their first 5 or 6 tries. I wish to apologize to all the trees that were wasted while these guys tried to figure out how their own programs worked. No running for me. This was towards the end of my time in my unit and Pig's time in the army. I was changing duty stations, PCS, and Pig was getting out of the military, ETS. We had one buck sergeant who wasn't a great leader. He was promoted because he could kiss some butt like it was an Olympic event, and he was going for the gold. Also, this one, Sergeant P we'll call him, was promoted in the unit after everyone knew him. It creates an interesting dynamic when you're promoted and placed back in your unit. While everyone must follow your orders, everyone knows the things you did when you were a specialist. It just makes it difficult to earn the respect of your once peers and be an effective leader. And let's be honest, most people are not natural leaders, and it takes time to develop those skills. Many of the newly promoted sergeants had a difficult time adjusting. Rather than leading, they tended to throw their stripes around. And to top it off, Sergeant P wasn't even great at his job. I mean, I was one of the weakest mechanics in my unit, and he was worse than I was. With a few weeks left in service, Pig started out-processing. There's a bunch of stuff to do for this, one of which was the out-process physical. Pig did this as early as he possibly could. Any disability claims are based off that physical, so if you were to injure yourself during physical training, this would not be in the report. So, no physical training after the physical. Now, Pig was not an immaculate soldier. Like me, he threw the uniform in the dryer and brush-shined his boots. Pig was a fantastic mechanic though. He was one of the strongest mechanics in our unit. He could also drive anything with wheels and was assigned to the wrecker. He was the guy everyone went to when they had an issue that they couldn't figure out. So, Pig did his physical and was sitting out physical training. A few days after the physical, Sergeant P comes to Pig and tells him that we have a battalion run and that everyone is required to participate. Pig informs him of the situation and politely tells him that running ain't in the cards. Sergeant P gets belligerent and begins yelling and cursing and just in general letting Pig know where he stands rank-wise. Pig at first just calmly repeats himself until he gets angry. Sergeant P was off the handle at this point. Pig has finally had enough and yells, "Forget you! I ain't running." A couple days later, Pig is a private E3, disrespecting an NCO. From what we heard, some of the senior NCOs in the platoon were pushing P to just drop the issue, and they would speak to Pig to ensure it wouldn't happen again. After all, Pig had been invaluable to our unit during deployment, and he would be leaving the military shortly. And they all thought that Sergeant P was kind of in the wrong. I mean, Pig did get out of hand, but he wasn't wrong about the run. But Sergeant P was having none of it. He wanted to make sure that all of the other lower enlisted would know not to speak to him in that manner. I'm not sure you can call this maliciously complying with a demotion. I do. But Pig sure had some fun being a private again. Whenever Pig was asked to perform one of the more complicated tasks, his response was, "I'm just a private. I have no idea how to do that." The motor sergeant asked him to do something one day. Pig gave his response in the most private-like voice he could conjure and just stared at the motor sergeant. The motor sergeant was staring daggers at Sergeant P, who suddenly had some official sergeant duties to attend to in his office and scurried off like a little rat. Pig did continue running the wrecker, and he spent most of his days just sitting there waiting for a call or performing routine maintenance on his truck. Nobody really bothered him much. Aftermath. This is the funniest bit. I changed duty station shortly after this. My new motor sergeant was a good guy and a fantastic leader. He was one of those guys that could give you the crappiest task and make you feel good about doing it. I also found out later that he was an uncle that I never knew I had, but that's another story. So, about 2 months there, the motor sergeant hollers from his office. Apparently, I have a phone call from someone in my previous unit. What the heck is this? Is some jerk now trying to get me from afar? No, it was Sergeant P. He was calling to let me know that he was changing duty stations and had been assigned to this unit. Fantastic. The unit put you into a platoon based on your military occupational specialty, MOS. Because P was the same specialty, he would be assigned to this platoon. He had called the motor sergeant's phone number, so I had taken the call in his office. The motor sergeant asked me about it, so I told him. Then he asked more questions, and I told him all about the story with Pig. I was dropping dimes like a cheap slot machine. After spilling all the beans, the motor sergeant sat back and thought for a minute, then asked a single question. Can he fix a truck though? My response, about as good as I can. He told me that was enough and dismissed me. A few months later, P walked into the motor pool and came over to chat with me. Apparently, the sergeant had him assigned to the QC department. He didn't know why. He did like the job. You can either be a poor leader or poor at your job, but you cannot be both at the same time. Make me stay late and yell at me? No, I will not break policy. We've got me, the store manager. We've got the staff member working. We've got entitled mom and entitled kid. I was working as a store manager for a medium dress for less retail store. We carried mostly clothing and home goods. Due to being short on managers, I was closing the store that day and had to open the next day. 8:45 p.m. announcement. The store will close in 15 minutes. Please make your way to checkout. Customers started heading up to the front. 8:55 p.m. I noticed one lady with her daughter is still shopping with a basket overflowing with items. Announcement. The store will close in 5 minutes. Please make your way to checkout. 9 p.m. She's still shopping. Announcement. The store is now closed. Please make your way to checkout. The lady started to walk towards the front to check out, I assumed. I had to wait for her to check out before I could close out the registers and figure out the money for the day. So while waiting, I went to the office to quickly send some emails. At around 9:10 p.m., I walked up to the registers and began to close the registers. I finished up quickly in about 5 minutes. I quickly put the money back in the safe area and walked out. Walking by the fitting room, I hear voices inside. There were only 2 other employees on the sales floor, and I could see both of them straightening items. The fitting room attendant was sorting clothes to go back to the sales floor. Is somebody in the fitting rooms? I asked coworker. Yeah, I think so. I told her that we are closing, she responded. Hello, the store is now closed. We are getting ready to lock up soon. We open at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I hollered back into the fitting rooms. Soon after, a very entitled lady and her daughter came out with a lot of items, picked up her basket of stuff, and said she was ready to check out. I'm sorry, but the store closed almost 20 minutes ago. We are open in the morning, I let her know.
No, my daughter and I need to buy all this right now, entitled mom declared to me.
That is not possible. The registers are closed, and we are about ready to head home and shut down the store, I politely told them.
That is BS. They always let me shop at this time. This is unacceptable, she yelled at me.
The store is closed. You can come in the morning to shop if you'd like, I responded assertively.
Fine. Then I demand you hold all of this for me until the morning. I will be back when the store opens to get it, she told me.
Now, due to us being a discount type store, we do not hold items, as we do not regularly get the same items. It is a company policy. I'm sorry, but due to corporate policy, we're unable to hold your items. We open at 9 tomorrow, and if you are here, then I'm sure they will still be here, I reminded her.
What? No, these are my items,
she demanded. They are the store's items right now, but tomorrow morning they could be yours, I let her know. Now, I need you to please leave. My staff and I would like to go home.
This is stupid, and you are awful. These items will be waiting for me here tomorrow, and I demand to have your store manager waiting so I can tell him how horrible and stupid you are. I will be here at 9, she told me.
The store manager will be here in the morning, I told her, smiling politely. Entitled mom stormed out, kid in hand, grumbling and griping the whole time. It was late and we were all tired, so we all got our stuff ready, armed, and left the store. I get there before any staff normally to get the money ready for the day, along with my paperwork while it was quiet. I made sure to spend the extra time that morning to put the basket of items away on the shelves and racks spread through the store. Petty, I know, but it felt amazing knowing she might come in. At about 11 a.m., I was up near the front talking to the morning staff, and I saw entitled mom storm in, already looking mad. I watch her not even look at us and walk straight to the fitting room. Shortly after, I get a call on my earpiece from the fitting room attendant that a customer is asking for me. I stroll back, a professional look on my face, calmly ready for the storm. I get back there and entitled mom looks mad. She sees me and says,
No, I asked for the store manager, not some supervisor.
"Ma'am, he is the store manager," they told her.
She gasped in anger. How dare you put my things back? I told you I was coming back for them,
She said to me, her face now red. "And I let you know last night that we cannot hold items due to policy. It has to do with the nature of our store," I inform her.
So where are my items now? They better all be here still. I told you I was coming back,
She demanded. "The retail merchandise is all on the sales floor. All unpurchased items get put back," I said. "I can assure you they were here when we opened, but I do not know about now." Entitled mom huffed and started walking around, stomping and huffing. She ended up finding some of what she had from before, but made sure to make comments to the cashier about how she could not find all of her items and she would never be coming here again. If only, right? I did see her other times, but she went out of her way to never talk to me or acknowledge me, which was fine. You have to date him. Backstory. My mom and Entitled Mom were really close and pretty much best friends. Entitled Mom has a son, let's just call him In. So In and I grew up together, so I thought of him as a brother. The idea of dating him never crossed my mind, so this ended up happening. I was around 16 when this happened, and he was 17. I had just changed schools because Entitled Mom insisted. In her words, my friends tried to peer pressure me into getting into trouble, which wasn't even true. She also insisted that I moved to In's school, which I hated from day one, since I was the new girl and no one really talked to me. It was at this time that In became more comfortable with me. He would often put his arm on my shoulder as we walked around school and hugged me constantly. So the day came when In asked me out, but I said no. That's when Entitled Mom interferes. I arrive home after school the same day and Entitled Mom was there, and this conversation goes down. Entitled Mom.
Why didn't you accept?
Me. What? Just like that, she starts screaming.
You know he likes you. Why didn't you accept when he asked you out?
Me. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't be comfortable dating him. He's like a brother. In enters the room crying. How could you have done this to me? Entitled Mom.
Look, you made my son cry. You need to date him. He likes you.
Me. I'm sorry, but it's my business who I date.
How dare you? If you continue like this, no one will ever want to marry you.
Me. Marry? I'm sorry. I'm only 16. How could I be thinking of marrying someone?
You're being irrational, and I hope you realize your mistake.
Then she walks up to me and slaps me. By then, I had enough, so I locked myself in my room for an hour until my mom came up to talk to me, and this happened. Mom. I know you're confused, but you have to understand, he's the one for you. And me. You know nothing. Mom. That's enough. You're grounded. After 1 month grounded, I cut all ties with In and Entitled Mom. Today I'm 25 and married to a guy I actually like and never heard from In ever since. However, my mom still talks to Entitled Mom, but I don't really talk to my mom. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you just date them or tell them absolutely not? Entitled Dad demands my sister give his son her fireworks stand. This story happened a few years ago, so I might not remember exactly how it went down. Let's meet the usual cast. We've got the entitled dad, the entitled bratty kid, who is about 7. We've got G, my sister. We've got my dad and my stepmom. Well, most of my dad's family live in a city in the countryside of my state. I live in the capital. We were all there for my cousin's 15th birthday. It's a really big thing around here. It was mostly a pretty fun trip. Me, my dad, stepmom, her kids, and my siblings were staying at one of my dad's aunt's place. The party started around 7 p.m. and it was freezing, about 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. There were more than 1,000 people there. The main attraction was the barbecue, made with an entire cow of 200 kilograms from one of the relatives' farm. We had a great time, ate a lot, danced, and acted like kids. The party went on. My cousin arrived. She was gorgeous. Danced with my dad, who was not only her uncle, but also her godfather. My dad later told us that there were going to be fireworks. I immediately get excited. I went outside and they started to set them off. My sister was holding a fireworks stand, the ones made out of cardboard. She was 20 at the time, but always seemed younger. Then approached a man, obviously had been drinking. He was about 35 and he had his crying kid with him. Before he reached us, he let go of him, crouched in front of him, and said something that made the kid immediately stop crying and his eyes sparked with excitement. The guy left the kid about 5 meters away from us, and obviously, they were our dear entitled dad and entitled kid. The stand my sister was holding was out, so she outed it down. But there was more. Entitled dad.
Hi.
Sister. Hi. Entitled dad.
So, what's your name?
It's G.
You know, it's very dangerous for a kid to be holding fireworks in your hands like that, don't you?
Sister. Kid? Okay. Thanks for your concern, but I can take care of myself.
You should let the adults handle it. You know, only people older than 18 can buy those. Give it to me so I can launch some.
Sister. I'd rather not. These are mine. The guests were notified to buy some if they could.
Come on, I just want to give it to my kid so he'll stop crying. Will you deny my kid's request?
She looks over the entitled dad's shoulder and sees the kid standing there. She makes an expression of shock. Sister. You used the argument that only older than 18 can use these. Now you want me to just give it to your kid, who obviously looks like he's 7?
Like you are older than 18. You look 16 tops. Just give me the fireworks.
He then proceeds to push her out of his way before she can say something and try to grab a firework on top of our car. I slap his hand before he can reach one. He backed down in disbelief. His face had the most confused expression I've ever seen. It's like he couldn't process the fact that someone dared lay a hand on his precious skin.
What the heck? Did you just hit my hand? You should show your elders some respect. I never gave you the right to do that.
Me. And we never gave you the right to steal our fireworks, you jerk. He seemed more shocked than before. He opens his hand in the air like he was going to slap me. Before he could even try, my sister punched him in the nose. Sister. Don't you dare lay a finger on my brother, you jerk. The entitled kid started screaming so loudly, my ears hurt. My dad and stepmom saw the commotion and came rushing towards us. My dad. Hey, what the heck is going on here?
These two brats were launching fireworks. It's dangerous. I tried to warn them, but she punched me in the face.
He said while holding his nose and trying to calm entitled kid down. Entitled kid. I want it. He was desperately shouting while rolling on the floor. My dad. First of all, she's 20. Second of all, OP wasn't launching crap because I forbade him to. What happened? He said, looking at my sister this time. Sister. This guy just randomly appeared and tried to take our fireworks so that his kid could launch them. When OP tried to stop him by slapping his hand, Entitled Dad was going to slap OP, but I punched him first. Entitled Dad.
Lies. She assaulted me. She and that spawn there. Their kids trying to rob my fireworks.
Oh, now the fireworks are his, huh? Stepmom. What? We bought those with our money. Man, you're full of crap. The entitled dad became pale. He was cornered now. My dad. Hey, entitled kid, why are you crying? Entitled kid stopped his tantrum for a while and said, Daddy said I could hold the fireworks, he said while crossing his arms and frowning. My dad. Well, would you look at that? I'm going to ask you to leave or I will call the cops. Entitled dad.
Who the heck are you to talk to me like that? You think you have authority here? You made my kid cry. My cop cousin will hear about this. I'll throw all of you in jail. Do you have any idea who I am?
My dad. Well, do you have any idea who I am?
No.
I'm the birthday girl's uncle, so I guess I have authority. And if you don't leave right now, I will drag you through the gate. Leave, now. Entitled Dad opened his mouth to say something, but gave up. He grabbed his kid who was still crying and signaled to a lady in the entrance of the saloon to go with him. I suppose it was his mom. They left and the party continued normally until the end of the night. We still talk about it to this day and just laugh our butts off. You represent this school wherever you go. Before I start, I used to work at a preschool that was at a church. I had a horrible time there and was only there for 4 months. I ended up quitting because of my health, but this story played a part in it. I had just gotten off work and it was still pretty early. I had gotten off around 2:30 that afternoon and decided to run to Target, the closest store was Target, and get some cat food. I was wearing my work shirt, which was the unforgettable Target red, but this had big white letters proclaiming Saint something Catholic school. It took me a while to get to the cat food because I'm not familiar with the layout of this Target. I finally get to the cat food see the food my kitten eats, and I'm just about to leave when I spot Karen in all of her glory with her cart loaded with groceries. I shoot past, and she looked at me and grabbed my arm. She looked me up and down, and I guess she failed to notice the big white letters and only saw red and said,
"Can you get the dog food for me? I'm in a hurry."
Me. No, I'm sorry. I'm in a hurry myself. I have to go and get my dog from the groomers. A total lie since she was getting groomed next week, but usually this works.
"But I saw you get the cat food."
Me. Yeah, I have a kitten at home, but I have to pick up my dog.
"But you work here. You have food."
Me. Look, if you read my shirt, you would see that I don't work here. I show her the shirt, and I hope it makes a connection with her. Nope.
"You work at a church, which means you have to help me."
Me, growing tired. Ma'am, I have to leave. I would like to go and get my dog and feed my cat. Goodbye. But right before I leave, I hear her say,
"I will speak to your boss about this."
I leave, thinking nothing of it. Though part of me was worried that she would call my boss, who we shall call Joe, because she was one of those people who believed we represented the school no matter what we did off the clock. The next day I go in at 7 as usual, but as I walk in, I hear Joe call my name. Joe.
"Hey, Maggie, come in for just a second."
I walk in feeling my nerves start to wake up. I know just what is about to happen. I walk in and see Karen, though I don't really pay attention to Karen as much as the fact of who she was. Now that I see, I know she's not a parent since the preschool is pretty small with only 20 to 30 kids. I know most of the parents' names and faces, and I know for certain that Karen was not a parent or even a grandparent that came sometimes. Maybe she was a church member, I don't know. Joe is sitting at the desk, and I see Karen sitting in one of the seats. Joe.
"Thank you for coming to see me, Miss Karen. Now, I understand you met Maggie last night at the store?"
Karen.
"Yes, I did. She was rude and refused to help me."
Joe turned to me next.
"Maggie, is this true? Did you refuse to help her?"
Me. Joe, this happened after I got off. I had to go home to get my dog from the groomers. I hated lying to my boss. I heard Karen scoff at this. Joe.
"Now, Miss Karen, I am not responsible for my workers for what they do when they are not on campus, but we do have a motto. Here at Saint Something, it's Matthew 5:16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Do you understand, Miss Karen? We encourage our teachers and students to be the hands and feet of God. This being said, I do believe that Maggie should have helped you. She does represent our school."
As Joe was saying this, I was dumbfounded. How could Joe agree with this lady? Karen smiles at Joe. Joe.
"Maggie, this is a warning. If I hear of anything like this again, you will be written up and let go. Do you understand?"
I nod as if I was in the Twilight Zone. I kept thinking, can you really be fired for what you do off the clock? Is this even legal? Karen smiled, got up with a crap-eating grin, and walked out the door. I look up at Joe. Me. Joe, were you just saying that to make her happy? Am I really in trouble? Joe.
"Well, part of it, yes. I do expect the teachers to set an example for others. What you did was very unlike Christ. You should have helped her."
Me. Really?
"Yes, really. Now go to your class."
And that was the end of that. I got so mad for the rest of the day, I could barely stand the kids. So yeah, this is one of the reasons why I left. One of the many reasons. If this happened to you, would you keep working at the school or would you quit? Karen tried to get me fired by claiming I charged her for more than she was supposed to pay. Okay, so this was a while ago, back when I worked at a water park. It was a very hot day, and I'm working at the tube stand. My job is to sit at my station behind a cash register and ring up people for rentable, inflatable tubes that they can use for the day. We have both double tubes, which is a figure 8 looking inflatable tube with holes in the center that you can put your legs through, and we have single tubes, which is just a donut-shaped tube. Fast forward a few hours, we had sold out of all of our double tubes and only had a few single tubes left, and my shift was almost over. I'm sitting there, minding my own business, and then a mom and her 2 kids come up to the stand. Entitled Mom.
"Hi, could I get 2 double tubes?"
Me. Sorry, ma'am, but we've sold out of all of the doubles a while ago. I can rent you out the last singles we have, though. She just looked shocked, like I had just insulted her 2 kids, who might I add were burning their feet on the hot concrete. I tell them to stand in the shade next to me, which they do.
What? No, I need the double tubes. My 2 kids want to share one, and I want to ride one with my husband.
Now, I had already dealt with crappy customers before her, so I was already kind of in a bad mood. Me. Listen, I physically can't give you double tubes when we don't have any.
Well, I don't care. I know you have some double tubes left.
Me. I can show you the back if you want. That'll prove it to you.
No, I want my double tubes.
She pulls out her membership card, and she's a Diamond Elite. It's a high tier for members of this park.
See? I am a Diamond member, and I need my tubes.
Me. Sorry, but I can't get you these tubes.
Fine. Give me the singles, but only charge me for 2 doubles.
Usually, I'm not allowed to do this. I only did it to customers that I liked, and I certainly did not like this lady. Me. Sorry, ma'am, I can't do that for you. I'll get fired.
Well, why does it matter? It's basically the same thing.
I'm not doing that, I say as I ring her up.
Ugh, fine, whatever.
I ring her up, and I finally think it's over. Oh boy, was I wrong. Now, where I am stationed, guest services is to the left of me. This lady legit goes to guest services and starts yelling about how I charged her for 4 doubles instead of 4 singles. I am absolutely shocked at this lady. A supervisor comes up to me and says, "Did you charge her for 4 doubles instead of 4 singles?" Me. No, I did not. She was complaining about not being able to get 2 double tubes, so she bought 4 singles. Entitled Mom is behind the supervisor as she's speaking to me, and she has the most crap-eating grin on her face you can imagine. Me. Look, I'll pull up her receipt for you. I press some buttons on the monitor, and her receipt pulls up, saying she bought 4 singles. Supervisor. Alright, sorry for this. She goes up to Entitled Mom and says that she paid for the 4 singles and not 4 doubles. Entitled Mom just gets so furious and starts yelling about how I didn't give her the Diamond Elite discount. Ironically, if she would have used her Diamond Elite discount, she would have gotten 4 singles for almost the same price as 2 doubles. The supervisor tells her that she should have thought of that before she purchased the tubes. Entitled Mom is defeated and leaves, and I get to go home. What a lovely day. Don't tell people how to do their job if you're an idiot. So, backstory. I used to work at a factory who suffered severely under a director who wanted to make more money with little idea as to how to run a factory or how to see through people trying to BS you to gain favor. One person in particular was notorious for sucking up. When I started, he was the boss for about 1/3 of the production unit, and as it happened, he was also the guy who took over whenever my own boss needed time off, was out liaising with other companies, or otherwise wasn't on company grounds. This guy had a massive superiority complex and couldn't handle being wrong or having made a mistake. And just to make it better, he was also clueless about quite a lot of things outside of the machine shop, where he was the boss. Safe to say, my partner and I really disliked him and made an active effort to work against his stupidity whenever he was our acting boss. So as for the story itself, my partner and I made up the company's goods reception and quality control department. Basically, our job was to receive the goods and inspect that everything was in order, correct amount had been delivered, no transport or production damage or mistakes, and then prepare the things for storage. But as you might expect, sometimes things weren't quite in order. Some things were unimportant and we just ignored them. Most things we send in to get them repaired, since most mistakes were fixable, and then send a bill to the contractor who were hired for the job. And a few things we discarded because they were broken beyond what we could repair. And this particular idiot was allowed to greenlight things that my partner and I had sent in to get repaired. So one day the director comes out with the head of productions behind him, wanting to know why a particular type of good from a particular contractor always gets sent in for repair. And I do mean every time. And we explained that because Purchase opted to use the cheapest place to get things done, he wasn't happy with that explanation and wanted to get someone who knew of such things to have a look at it. Cue Mr. Idiot himself, who takes one look at them and goes, "Oh, those are perfect, right as they're supposed to be." And director tells us to just send them on their way. My partner, a fairly temperamental guy, was furious, but we made a plan. And so Idiot and director left, but head of production stayed behind. With every piece of good we received, we'd pull the schematics in order to measure if everything was in order or not. And then on this schematic, we'd write some additional information, purchase number, steel certificate, etc., so that we could easily trace everything back should there be a problem. And for this particular thing, we drew an arrow to the part that was done incorrectly, wrote what the problem was, and approved by Mr. Idiot, and asked the production manager to sign it, and off the goods went. 5 minutes later, we got a call from storage. So, what's the deal with these goods? Why aren't they in the machine shop? Well, because Mr. Idiot said they're okay, and the director is backing him up. We then briefed him on the plan, and he was somewhat happy. So about 2 weeks later, our trap sprung. Our assembly unit, whom I'd already spoken to, needed these particular parts, and they received the ones that weren't made correctly, so they of course contacted their boss, who, according to plan, didn't contact my boss since he was away, but the director himself, about how quality control had really messed up. Of course, the director came flying over, howling and screaming about our incompetence, to which my partner and I calmly asked him, "So, it's about those specific parts, creating this particular problem?"
Well, yes, you morons.
The director then called for Mr. Idiot to come and straighten us out. Mr. Idiot stood there, all smug, expecting his next big promotion, but we called storage and asked our storage worker to bring up the pallet with the remaining goods and the schematic that had a very neatly "approved by Mr. Idiot, signed production manager" written on it. The half of a second it took him to realize that these goods that risked delaying the shipment and thus costing a small fortune in delays had been green-lighted by him was priceless. His face went from, "Oh yeah, I'm securing my seat as the next production manager," to, "Oh crap, I'm gonna get fired for this." He was later told to stay right away from the quality control department, and my partner and I, as well as our boss, celebrated with cake. I'm a landscaper, not a construction worker. A bit of background. Before the fire department, I started working at a landscaping company, which I still work with to this day. Mind that our uniforms consisted of khaki pants and a bright green shirt with our company logo on the back. I was outside of an alternate office location waiting for my boss to arrive since I had gotten there rather early. Right around the corner, there was construction going on. Our uniforms are a bit similar in terms of the shirts, minus the logo, and a hard hat since we were going to be working near the construction, safety regulations and that jazz. This hard hat also had our company logo on it. As I was waiting for my boss to arrive, I would assume the person who was the manager of the construction approached me from behind. I didn't notice him as I was on my phone and didn't hear his footsteps. He taps me on the shoulder to get my attention. As I turned to face him, he had the most arrogant, crud-eating grin I'd ever seen. I'm guessing this was due to the fact that he thought he had caught a worker slacking off and could exercise his authority. Dialogue proceeded like this. Jerk.
Why aren't you working? Where's your boss?
Me. Excuse me?
I said, where's your boss? Shouldn't you be working?
Me. I'm waiting for my boss to get here.
And he should already be here, right? Go ahead and get that stack of bricks for me. This way.
He motions to a pile of bricks in the corner. At this point, I wondered what was going on and figured it out pretty quickly. Oh, all right. You think I'm with the construction guys around the corner. Sorry, man. I'm not with them.
What are you talking about? I saw you here yesterday.
Yes, I was here yesterday, but not with construction.
Yes, but you were here. I saw you.
Sir, I'm with the landscaping company that takes care of trash cleanup and mowing the grass, as well as taking care of the flower beds and mulch. He looks at me like I'm crazy until I show him the large, bold company logo on the back of my shirt where he approached me from. He then appears to have just seen a ghost, turns around, and leaves me alone. The end. The McDonald's Screeching Lady. I typically bring my lunch to work. However, on occasion, I will go to the nearby McDonald's. This probably happens about once a month or so. It was a weekday, and I was eating in the seating area. I was wearing my uniform, which is a black blouse and black slacks, but I had taken off my name tag for my break. I had my coat and my purse with me in the booth beside me, but I will give the entitled lady a benefit by saying she probably didn't notice it. As I was eating, the actual manager came over to my table. She had to teach a new hire how to make an ice cream cone, so she was giving it to me as no one had ordered one. Don't blame them, this was December. But free ice cream, so I accepted. Side note, I do know the manager from a previous encounter where I had to call 911 for an elderly lady in medical distress. I had to write out my version of events in a report for the manager, as I guess she had to report it to the head office. I wasn't surprised when she approached me, because we do tend to say hello to one another when I go there. So I'm seated, eating, when an entitled lady approaches me. I work in customer service and immediately can tell that this lady is upset. Unfortunately, I was still in work mode, so I didn't immediately tell her to buzz off. Basically, the lady started to complain about the wait time for her food and that her son wasn't happy with his burger. I smiled, said it's lunch hour, so you probably should expect a wait time. The lady's son was not with her. I have no idea what his complaint actually was. The lady said I should hire more people so the lunch wait isn't so long. I realized she isn't just complaining to me randomly, and I told her I don't work here. This is when she said I clearly work here, as I'm in uniform and the worker was just talking to me. Still polite, I laughed a little and simply said I do know the manager, but I don't work here. She stormed off in a huff and I went back to eating, thinking that was that. Nope. I then hear her screeching from the counter area. I couldn't see her, but I could hear her berating the workers for ignoring her, then yell about how the manager was lazy and she demanded a corporate number. Something else must have happened because it was quiet when I packed up my things to leave. The entitled lady was still there, fuming, while the actual manager was talking to her calmly. I wish I could say the lady was kicked out of the store, but I left to return to work and prayed she didn't come over to my store, where I would actually need to deal with her. She didn't come over, and I hope I never see her again.
Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.